like to call this evening's meeting to order. Thank you all, and I apologize, we're running a little late. That's never our intent, but there were some extenuating circumstances there. But we're starting now at 5:37, and we have, Dr. Mahatma Khani stepped out briefly, but I think you can show 7 members present because she's right there. Thank you. Okay. Our next agenda item is approval of the agenda, and our recommended action is that the board approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Board Member Huff, do I have a second? Board Member Smart? Let's vote. I'm still showing 4 of 7. Is anybody having trouble voting? Oh, okay. Let's just do a verbal then. Board Member Huff?
Aye.
Board Member Mahoney?
Aye.
Chair votes aye on a roll call vote. 7 passes. Pardon me? As required by Missouri Statute 67.110, the Board of Education is holding a public hearing on the proposed tax rates for the 2025 tax year. After the tax rate hearing, the tax rates will be voted on by the Board of Education. Deputy Superintendent over Operations, Dr. Travis Shaw, will provide additional information. Dr. Shaw?
Well, good evening, Board. As Ms. Bruner indicated, each August we come to you for a required tax rate hearing. Boards are required to set the tax rate by September 1st each year, and the process followed to calculate the tax rate is provided by the State Auditor's Office using the data provided to us from Greene County. As mentioned earlier, we do follow Missouri Statute 67.110 as well as Board Policy DC2. This year was a reassessment year. All odd years are a reassessment, and so that's where you'll find the data adequate for that. The assessed valuation information provided by Greene County indicates a 13.9% increase for existing assessed valuation when we compare that to the 2024 August values. Of that increase, about 51 million was new construction. That's part of that, representing that 13.98%. Our tax rates are calculated through the State Auditor's Office utilizing one of 3 numbers, and it's the lesser of the 3 numbers. It's either our actual assessed value increase, which in this case is 13.98%. It's the Hancock Amendment, which represents 5%, or the actual Consumer Price Index, or the CPI, which represents 2.9%. So our tax rates based on the assessments are calculated this year off of the 2.9%. The last reassessment in 23, that CPI was 3.4, just to give you perspective. The total levy calculated calls for a little over $3.70, which is actually a decrease of almost 28.5 cents, I'm sorry, which is a significant decrease in our levy. All of that comes from operating, and the debt service levy remains steady at 73 cents. That is actually a rollback of little over 24 cents from over 97 cents. We continue to have one of the lowest debt service levies in the region at 73 cents. So the overall revenue adjustment will actually take place in one of our subsequent treasurer's reports because the $6.7 million is more than what we anticipated receiving, and so that will come as a budget amendment as we do every single month. So one of the questions that often comes up, so I want to give a couple different examples. If you had a $100,000 home and you saw a 5% increase in your value, because the levy is being reduced by over 28 cents, that person will actually see a $25.94 decrease in their annual tax. That's a $100,000 home. If they received a 5% increase of their value, they still will have less tax to pay because our levy is being rolled back that much. If their home of $100,000 didn't receive any increased value whatsoever, that would actually result in a reduced tax to them of $54.19 over that year. So you can use those same calculations to determine a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 home. That's just on real estate. As a reminder, we receive the tax rate is based off of not only real estate, but commercial property, agricultural, and personal property as well. So in the board packet and what was posted, you will see the difference in what our assessed valuation is. It went from a little over 4.8 billion to 5.5 billion. That's what represents that 13.98%. And one of the items that has come up in question is the very bottom item when it talks about the percentage of new revenue from reassessment. That 3.0429% is calculated off of not only the reassessment, but other changes. Those other changes are represented by increased personal property, which is why that 3.0429 percentage is listed and not 2.9, because it's not just reassessment on real estate, but it's also any increase to personal property, and that's how that number is calculated. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have before you open up the hearing.
Board members, any questions, comments? Board Member Mahad Makani.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw, for explaining that. I think people find that very useful. I do have a comment, but I also have a question. Did you say in 2023, that year we used the 5% Hancock because our CPI was higher? Or were you talking about last year when you said it was 3.5%?
That would have been last year. It was in this type year,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
The
So
CPI
this is-
24, correct.
So this is
That's my mistake.
like a very incredible year that we've had to roll it back.
Yes.
But I just want to remind everybody that when you look at the proposed hearing notice, the presumption is 100% collection. And I think we have to face the music, which is we know we're not going to have 100% collection because this is assuming that everybody is paying their rate without any rebates or credits. And we know that people over 65 have had the option to ask for a credit. We call it tax freeze, but that's a freeze, but it's really in the form of a credit. That's not calculated. We are assuming that everyone's going to be paying that, and that's where 2.9% comes in.
Correct.
So it's actually, we're taking a hit on that, and it's just, good to remind ourselves of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions from the board? At this time, members of the public are invited to comment on the proposed 2025 tax rates. And I would remind everyone that typically public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Mr. Hurd?
Good evening, Dr. Lathan and board members. For you board members that are historians, as has already been mentioned, we're doing this because of the Mel Hancock Amendment. It goes back about 40 years, so some of you weren't around then. But I might have a little different example than what Dr. Shaw gave you. And I don't have all the information that he has, so I'm not 100%, but I'll throw it out there for whatever it's worth. Its purpose is to prevent schools from receiving a windfall from reassessments. And as been mentioned, there's lesser of three things. The actual growth, I guess it's 13.9%, 5%, or the inflation rate. And I guess inflation is something under 3%. But anyway, may I present to you the document from Shane Scholler that has the numbers that basically Dr. Shaw gave you, which you probably already have. But let me go over some of those numbers. Total assessment for 25 is $5,558,896,437. Assessment for 24, $4,883,153,589. This is a $675,742,840 increase, 13.9. Let's round it to 14%. I Googled what's the average price of a home in R12. The median price is $231,000. I don't know, that's median, many above or below, not mean. But let's take 200,000 as an example. Last year, our 12 rate was $3.99 per $100 assessed valuation. That includes the bond payback and all that. So on a $200,000 house, you would pay $1,516 to R12. Now, the total tax is $5.37 per hundred, so that same $200,000 house pays $2,044. Now, I'm going to make an assumption that may be wrong. If you lower the tax rate by 1%, you'd lower the tax amount by 1%. I hope that's right. But there's some complication Dr. Shaw threw in there that confused me. So on a $200,000 house, 1% is roughly $15. So if you go from 14% down to 3%, that's 11% rollback.
Mr. Hurd, we're at your 3 minutes. We do
Okay.
appreciate the information.
I think you got my point.
We did, and thank you for the handouts.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments from the public? The recommended action is that the board approves the 2025-2026 tax rate of $1.6355 for the incidental general fund, $1.3381 for the teacher fund, and 73 cents for the debt service fund, a total levy of $3.7036 per $100 of assessed valuation. Do I have a motion? Moved by Dr. Mahatma Khani, and a second by Board Member Provance. Any other discussion? Let's vote. Okay, let's do a roll call vote. I'm still showing 5 out of 7 votes recorded. Board Member Huff? Aye. Board Member Thomas Tate? Dr. Mahatma Khani?
Aye.
And Chair votes aye, so it passes with 7. Thank you. The tax rate hearing is now adjourned. We will now move forward to the next item on the combined meeting agenda. Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Hall, will introduce students from Mann Elementary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's right. Good evening, board members. Thank you so much. It is an honor to introduce Mann Elementary students. Students, as I call your name, please come forward. We have Lana LeClaire, Hudson Lyons, Lila Collins, and Mason Rosselet. Hey, here. Lana. Perfect. And they're joined by their principal, Mrs. Courtney Ellis. And Mrs. Ellis has provided details about each of our students. I want to share with you what Mrs. Ellis shared about her students. Lana, would you raise your hand? Lana is a second grader and is one of the most caring students at Mann Elementary. She invites others to join her, and she checks in on their well-being. She is observant, and she ensures that others feel valued. Hudson, would you raise your hand? Hudson is a fourth grader, and he is an excellent golfer. Hudson strives to help others, and he is reliable in his everyday actions. Lila, would you raise your hand? Lila is a third grader who comes to school with a smile on her face every morning. Lila radiates positivity and the Eagle way in every action. And finally, Mason, would you raise your hand? Mason is a third grader and has a reputation for being the best dressed on school spirit days. He has a great sense of humor, and he uses it to make others smile. This is an outstanding group of students. We're honored to have them with us tonight, and we would also like to recognize any other Mann staff and family members in attendance. Would you please stand? Thank you for being with us to support these students. At this time, we invite all of you, please, to join us as our Mann students lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. Students, whenever you're ready, please lead the pledge. And we're going to have,
So if you see me like this on a picture, I learned that from my friend. She trained me very well last year for ribbon cutting. She said, put your hands on your hips.
And then flip your picture.
Upside down.
Good job. Perfect. Everybody look right here, then I'll move, and parents can take a picture. Okay. Just wait right there.
well done. Well done, Mann. We'll continue now with honoring excellence, and we are pleased to announce that 8 of our SPS schools have received a prestigious award from the Missouri School-Wide Positive Behavior Support for outstanding implementation of PBIS at their sites. And as a reminder, PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. Tonight, we will honor Mann Elementary School and Central High School, which have received Tier 1 recognition for outstanding PBIS implementation. The other schools in SPS will be recognized during upcoming meetings this fall based on their availability. This recognition highlights a school's dedication to fostering a positive and conducive learning environment through the consistent application of PBIS strategies, which are being applied across our entire district. At this time, we invite Principals Courtney Ellis and Jeremy Brown, along with their team members, to come forward. We also want to introduce Karen Murray. Karen is a school improvement, school-wide consultant with the Agency for Teaching, Leading, and Learning at Missouri State University. Karen has joined us to make a special presentation, so we'll turn it over to her to tell us more about the success these schools have experienced. Karen?
Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. I am so proud to be up here awarding Mrs. Ellis and Mr. Brown with awards for Central High and Horace Mann Elementary. I want to say that this award is a state-level award. It requires applicants to conduct an interview. There's a process of a walkthrough where we're looking for school-wide implementation. And both of these schools met that state standard of excellence, and so they are being honored today with that. Just a quick aside, when I went to Horace Mann, it was one of the days I went, it was the day after a snow day. And I was just sort of expecting, I mean, I can see on your faces kind of what I was expecting. I thought, oh, there may be a little mayhem and this will be totally okay. That school was running like a well-oiled machine. Students were in their rooms learning, the staff was professional and friendly, and it was just delightful to see the level of instruction going on in that elementary. And the couple times I went to Central, I have to say, there were so many just wonderful secondary components of PBIS that I have borrowed them and kind of filtered them out to other high schools. Their staff is professional, the students are friendly, there was a high amount of engagement going on in classrooms, and I did steal some ideas and shared them with other high schools. So both of these schools are doing amazing work, and not only are they helping schools and students in Springfield, but their influence is trickling out into other schools in the Southwest Missouri region. And so with that, I say congratulations to both of these schools.
Thank you all, and congratulations again to Mann and Central. And I do want to just reiterate, these are 2 of 8 SPS schools that are receiving this statewide recognition this school year. We will bring the remaining 6 schools for their individual recognition as they are available during board meetings this fall. And I do just want to say, I had the privilege and honor of being inside 10 different SPS schools on the first day of school today. And I was able to experience the first day across learning divisions, elementary, middle school, high school, traditional schools, magnet programs, you name it, we saw it. And no matter where we were, we saw PBIS in action. And we saw it up front and clear. Our staff, our students are demonstrating excellence with this implementation, and it was great to see that evident on the first day of school. It certainly did not seem like the first day of school today. It was running smoothly. We will now continue with honoring excellence with the Carl Perkins Community Service Award. Our next recognition is for staff members who were honored at the 2025 Missouri Association for Career and Technical Educators Conference in July. As I call your name, please come forward. Ashley DeVore is a District Coordinator of Career and Technical Education. Hi, Ashley. Angie Wyatt is Parkview High School's marketing teacher and DECA advisor, and she is accompanied by Jill Fannin, her co-advisor for DECA, as well as students Isaiah Hampton and Valeria Guzman, who are chapter presidents this year. Ashley, would you raise your hand? Ashley received the Pride and Carl Perkins Community Service Award from the Missouri Educators of Family and Consumer Sciences. This award recognizes individuals who have made meaningful contributions to career and technical education. Angie received the Carl Perkins Community Service Award from Marketing Educators of Missouri, which recognizes educators who use career and technical education to make a positive impact in their communities. She has been supported in her work by Jill, by Isaiah, and Valeria. And as you know, strong career and technical education programs are an important focus for Springfield Public Schools. And the work that Angie and Ashley are doing ensure that we offer students academically challenging courses which equip them with relevant technical knowledge and skills for success in college and/or careers. So please join us in congratulating Angie, Ashley, and their programs. And that concludes honoring excellence for this evening. Thank you.
Before we begin our public comments this evening, Dr. Lathan would like to speak and say a few words to us.
Thank you, Board Member, President Bruner. I'd asked President Bruner if I could, actually, I had some comments prepared, of course, for my superintendent's update, if I could take a portion of those and do them at the beginning of the meeting, since we have our central administrators here. Central was initially scheduled months ago to be a part of the board meeting tonight for the PBIS recognition. But in light of the announcement we had to make last Friday, I thought it was important that we recognize the team and make sure that it is clear to our staff, our community, and our parents the decision that I, along with our athletics team, made last week. I want to reiterate that as we think about success-ready students and educating every child in Springfield Public Schools, it's important that students be tied to extracurricular and athletics, but we have to also exercise caution and focus on safety when it comes to our student athletes. And so based on the numbers that we were presented with last week, we had to make the decision to cancel the varsity programming for the fall. This was nothing intended to hurt Central or any other programs, because if people would go back and hear our discussions over the past several months, we've been talking about how to enhance facilities, not only at Central High School, but all of our high schools. And so just based on numbers in previous years, when students showed up last week and I've learned a lot about athletics, I tell you, over the past several years, but definitely the past week or so. Last week was the official first week of high school sports practice. And so throughout the summer, we had numbers, but we did not have the numbers we wanted then, but we wanted to wait and make sure once practice kicked off to see how many students we had. At that time, we had 5 seniors and 6 juniors. And when we finished on Thursday night, Friday, we were down to 4 students, 4 seniors, 6 juniors. And those students, and you think about the other students, were freshmen and sophomores, and just based on the experience of the team, we were very concerned about our students playing against some of the other teams in the conferences. Now, let's just go back several years. We have changed conferences, and I still say some nice things, sometimes not so nice things, to Joshua Scott for putting us in so many conferences. But one of the things we did to enhance Central was to have them to co-op for football over the past several seasons. So some of our other schools are in the OMC, the COC, then we have Central Co-oping. Did I get them all right? And our middle school's co-op, but Central is not a part of the OMC or the COC. I'm gonna be rapping pretty soon. So they're not a part of that, but we did that to make sure that they had an opportunity to engage. And so we want to make sure people understand we're not trying to hurt Central, we're trying to enhance it. There will be opportunities for the Kilties, cheerleading, POMs, band, steppers. Give me another team. Who did I miss?
Did you say palms?
I said POMs, fundraisers. All of that will continue, but we cannot host a varsity team this year for safety. Those 4 impacted seniors, There are things and conversations that their parents have been working on and making decisions in the best interest of their children. They are eligible to play, and I know people are going to say, I can't believe you're saying that, but they are eligible to play on the JV team. Once again, I go back to, we're looking at the experience and the composition of the team and the size of the teams that they're going up against. And so I want to make sure, because I know our team administrators have taken some hits over the past several days, but at the end of the day, we had to do what was best for our students that we serve at Central High School. Our goal is to have a varsity season next August, 26, 27, but there are things we have to continue to do over this next year to ensure. We have for some other sports in the past, I know softball is one, where we had to postpone the varsity season. And we will do things that we need to do to make sure students are safe. So I want to commend the team for trying and going all the way up to the very last minute to make sure that we had an option for our students. Thank you for reaching out to the parents, returning phone calls, sending messages back. Once again, we will continue to support our central teams and all of our athletic groups across the district. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Lathan. The Board of Education welcomes comments about the issues being discussed. The board uses this time in our meeting to listen to the public, but will not comment or engage with the public during the meeting. The board allows for up to 10 speakers per public comment period. The board chair will call on individuals in the order in which they signed up. Substitutions are not permitted. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes and will be timed by the board secretary. Comments must be acceptable for a business and family-friendly environment. Inappropriate language, gestures, or personal attacks will not be tolerated. It is inappropriate to address the board about individual students or individual staff members by name in open meetings. If you have concerns about individuals, these concerns should be addressed through the appropriate administrative supervisors, either in the schools or in the district office. If you have materials that you want to share, please place them in the tray on the podium and they will be distributed to the board members following the meeting. Our first speaker this evening is Chad Rollins.
Dr. Lathan, Board of Education, members of the press, Athletic Director Josh Scott, and SPS community. I am here, I'm Chad Rollins. I have 7 kids in the SPS district that have either graduated or currently going to school in SPS. Had the good opportunity of being a football player for Glendale, graduated in 1994, and was a 3-year varsity starter. Sophomore, junior, senior year, played offense, defense, special teams, and eventually became the captain of the football team, having that opportunity as a senior. I've been asked to come here indirectly why the coaches and players of Central are practicing tonight to come represent their comments, the parents' comments, the SPS community comments. There is a change.org website where there's a petition. I'm going to read the petition. There's currently 2,500 plus signatures on that petition, along with 10 pages of comments. The petition states, at Central High School in Springfield, Missouri, the Central Bulldogs have the spirit, the dedication, and the talent to have their own varsity football team. Yet we're being told that we can't compete with other schools. This notion undermines both the hard work of the students and the passion of our community. Each year, our students put in countless hours training, practicing, and owning their skills for the love of football. But without a varsity team, their efforts and dreams of showcasing those talents remain unfulfilled. It's not just about playing the game, it's about representing our school, building school pride, and giving our students the opportunity to compete at the highest level. Across the state of Missouri, numerous schools our size compete successfully in varsity football. I would lend you to Catholic in Springfield. The size of our student body and our resources cannot hold us back. What differentiates successful sports programs from others is the belief in students' potential and the support from the school administration and community. Establishing a varsity team for the Central Bulldogs would do more than just allow us to compete. It would bring our community together, inspire our future students, and showcase the spirit and resilience that Central High School exemplifies. Our student athletes deserve the chance to play under the Friday Night Lights to be celebrated for their dedication on and off the field. According to the Central football coach, there are 31 players. I'm running out of time, so there's 5 seniors, 13 players with varsity experience. I have 9 other additional comments. Has the potential to have a massive domino effect and the high probability to end the program. Numbers and age do not necessarily indicate experience. The timing of the decision is not the best consideration. I'm going to skip down. I'll leave these for you. The team will now have to hope
Mr.
a schedule
Rollins.
deemed suitable for district is available. This will leave the situation where experienced
Thank you, Mr.
varsity
Rollins.
players will be matched up against unexperienced players, which could lead to injury. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Carl Hurd.
Hello again. I signed up to speak at this meeting because I knew 3 minutes was not enough to do justice. So you got to work on this. You can improve school board meetings, and I'm running out of time already. First, let me say that after 32 years of retirement, I still miss the first day of school. It's great. Back to reassessment. Value of your home is not known until the day it is sold. The price of houses has gone way up. I have observed that some houses have doubled in value and others have gone up very little. So this reassessment or this rollback may not mean that much to some people. Actual sales data is limited because a buyer is not required to dissolve the sales amount. To challenge a reassessment number is expensive and you run the risk of losing the challenge. One myth about taxes, some people that rent say they don't pay taxes. Think again. Thank you for the rollback. It's very much helpful to families. And on a $200,000 house, I was trying to calculate it, but I don't have the exact numbers, so instead of making a mistake, I'll just let you figure it. There's so many challenges to the family budget. For instance, the city is wanting to charge $35 or $50 to register a rental house. That's a new thing. They've got a pilot program going. Between property taxes, the city, and insurance, it's difficult to keep from rents going up. Just an idea to help families, since many schools have a high percentage of free and reduced lunch, why not provide free lunch for every student? It wouldn't be necessarily have to come out of the R12 budget. This is kind of a new idea, and it'll probably surprise you coming from me. A fund could be set up to pay for individual lunches for the entire district. And so if somebody could, there's wealthy people that could contribute thousands to that type of a fund. But let me just end by saying I would contribute the first $100. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Next, we have Ms. Cheryl Clay.
Good evening. Y'all miss me? Well, after 4 days, SPS finally addressed the reason for canceling the 2025 Central High School football season. All I can say is, wow. For a district that supposedly trying to be more transparent, this was a major failure. Most students and parents learned this news on social media or by word of mouth. What was equally disappointing was basically the generic, almost petty reason for the cancellation. I say petty because in almost all publications those first couple of days, the team's losing record was given, which should not have had anything to do with anything if your reason was for safety. It also makes me wonder if any of the decision makers have ever attended a Central High School football game. I say this because if you had, you would know home games are always packed, so Central football always has 100% parent and community involvement, from supporting the band, the Kilties, or the cheerleaders. It appears that the decision was made without any consideration on how the decision affects the entire school. This so-called safety reason given is such a stretch. It appears to be a knee-jerk response without fully comprehending the repercussions. After all, football, from what I observe, has always been a physical sport, and I am unsure how age is a factor other than old age. If it's a skill, that is up to the coaches. Again, I doubt if SPS will walk back this decision. You should, but I doubt it. If not, this board and school administrators should develop some type of activities that involve Kilties, band, and cheer. And I understand from Dr. Latham's remarks that you are working on that. So I'm going to skip because I'm running out of time, but I just want y'all to know this was an ugly situation. You handled it horribly. Horribly. 2 days before school start, a Friday no less, for the weekend, and y'all dropped this bomb. Just ugly. Y'all need to do better.
Thank you, Mrs. Clay. Next speaker, Ms. Patty Crunk.
Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Lathan, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And first, I want to say how grateful I am that my grandson is in the Springfield Public School system. He's at AOE, and there are so many opportunities between you, Dr. Lathan, meeting with parents once a month. That opportunity is there. The different magnet programs, SPS University, that was awesome last year. But what I want to talk about tonight, I got to put my glasses on because I'm old, is to talk about the feasibility of a literacy specialist as a classroom reading teacher for grades K through 3. I think this is one of the biggest changes that can be made to ensure success for all students. Reading isn't just a core subject, it is the foundation for all learning. Can you imagine trying to learn history or science if you can't read? If students do not have solid reading skills by 3rd grade, they're 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. Dr. Thomas Tate could say this much more eloquently than I can, but literacy specialists have unique training in evidence-based reading instruction, phonics, decoding, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. They can pick up on difficulties and their cause. Schools that integrate literacy specialists into core instruction see significant change, especially for those at risk. Gaps can be closed early before they become a lifelong problem. And it just isn't for poor readers. It can help all students, including advanced readers, to grow. Investing in this addition to the classroom isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's how we can assure equity, am I allowed to say that word? Excellency and student outcomes. Our children deserve the best foundation possible. And a change in this direction lays groundwork that is solid for every student. Okay, I have 34 seconds. I realize this would be expensive and take a couple years to implement, but I know when you ran, you talked about outside sources of income. You can't answer. Well, there are grant writers, and, I don't see anything. I don't know if SPS has one, but there is money out there. There are people who give millions to universities. I don't see why they couldn't to public schools. And I love kids, and, time is up. But I want them to be able to read. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cronk. Our next speaker is Mr. Jeffrey Pettibone.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the first day of school. I'm Jeffrey Pettibone, president of the Missouri State Teachers Association, or MSTA for Springfield. On behalf of educators and staff across the district, thank you, Dr. Lathan, and members of the board for approving pay increases during this time of financial uncertainty. We recognize that this was not an easy process and appreciate your commitment to balancing employee needs with the district's long-term health. Thank you for making a conscious effort to recognize both teacher organizations for SPS, and I look forward to the year ahead and the collaborative spirit of SNEA, MSTA, and SPS. Together, we share the same goals: providing the best educational experience for students, fostering a healthy work environment, and advocating for a state government that respects the voices of its constituents. Missouri schools saw both progress and challenges this year. At the state level, full funding for the foundation formula and transportation was a big win. But the cost of educating a child continues to rise. With federal support uncertain and the state expected to shoulder more of the burden, we need greater investment to truly move forward. Without it, public education funding will be chipped away year after year in favor of privatized options. That is why it is more important than ever to raise our voices. We urge educators, families, and community members to contact their state representatives and senators. The lawmakers who champion our students and stand up for public education deserve our recognition and our votes. For those who need to hear from us, let's speak up. The future of public education in our state depends on sustained advocacy and voter engagement. With that in mind, I want to address some real concerns around privatized education, whether through vouchers, charters, or private schools using public tax dollars as funding. These schools are often not required to hire certified teachers, so children may be taught without formal training or experience. They lack financial transparency, making it unclear of how public dollars would be spent. Unlike public schools, many can turn students away or remove them for special needs, behavior, or academics. Public schools welcome every student. Privatized schools can also set their own tuition and fees, creating lots of barriers for families when tax dollars are involved. They are often not required to give state tests or report academic outcomes, leaving little accountability. Students may lose key protections, including special education services and due process. Most concerning of all, money is pulled from neighborhood schools that serve the greatest number and the widest range of students, and are redirected to institutions that are not fully accountable to the public. That should concern us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pettibone. Our next speaker is Neil Richardson, Sr.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address the board. I'm glad I'm also not alone. I checked the minutes from the last meeting, and academics and athletics both came up, so this is an appropriate discussion we're having today. My name's Neil, and I'm a proud parent of 4 students at Springfield Public Schools. 1's at Hillcrest and 3 are at Central High School. So tonight, I'm not sure I can get through this entire spot, so I'll leave a copy of it with you, but I want to take a moment to recognize the young men and all the work they put in, along with the coaches, cheerleaders, band members, and families who stood beside them. It's going to be different from what we expected, And although I'm deeply disappointed by the last-minute decision that the administrators used to cancel the varsity program, what won't change is the heart that those boys have shown. They committed to this program long before people were watching. I saw notes come home about practice for weightlifting in the winter and the spring. They started to train to be bigger, faster, and stronger than last year. Then when summer came, they showed up for two-a-day practices in the extreme summer heat, all with the hope of representing their school Friday night. This kind of true grit deserves everyone's respect. I want to be clear that their effort was not wasted, nor will it go unnoticed. Those boys built character, strength, and unity, and that foundation is what matters. It matters for those who choose to stay on the JV team, it matters for those who give up, but it matters for the pride of the school as well. I've seen posts on social media as well as everyone else, including people outside of this area, have reached out to me about this situation, that the players felt let down, abandoned, or like no one believed in them. But I want them to know that the community does see them, and that we believe in them. We're proud of what they accomplished. And this season can be an opportunity, not just to play football, but to be leaders, to show that Central football is made of, and rally together to build something stronger next year. Central High School deserved a program that reflected the dedication of these students, and with continued support from the community and the administration, I believe that's what we will see eventually. I understand that the administration's plan is to stand behind their decision, but tonight I would challenge you to stand behind the students instead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Item 4.10, 4 through 4.04, consent agenda items. Moving on to our consent agenda items, these are the minutes, KCOB reports, personnel, and treasurer reports. Our recommended action is that the board approve consent agenda items 4.01 through 4.04. Do I have a motion? Board Member Kincaid? Do I have a second?
Second.
Board Member Huff? Discussion? Let's vote. We're still just showing on the tally on our screens 3 votes recorded, so we'll do another roll call vote.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 7. 7 passed. Item 5.01, Board Policy Adoptions and Revisions. The policies listed were submitted to the board prior to this meeting to allow time to review and ask any questions. These policies are being brought forward based on changes in the law and to correct language. Are there any comments or questions from board members? Okay. The recommended action is that the board adopt the policies as presented or amended. Do I have a motion? Dr. Thomas Tate, move. Second? Dr. Mahatma Khani, second. Let's vote. Yeah, okay, I think we'll do the roll call vote again, and we'll start down here with Board Member Provance. Coach?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It passes with 7. And by the way, we're getting all sorts of different numbers. Mine says 5, Danielle says 2, I don't know.
I think it's showing them in the order that you put it. So for last person, you're gonna see the 7. So like, because I've been 3 and then 4 and then 5.
Okay, well, all right. Item 6.01, Communication Update, Governing Priority 3, Collaborative Culture. Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Stephen Hall, will provide an update on Governing Priority 3, Collaborate Culture. Mr. Hall?
Thank you, board members. I'm pleased to join you this evening to provide the annual update for collaborative culture, which is governing priority 3 of our strategic plan. Have some exciting things to share with you this year. I think we're ahead here. I'm going to scoot back here and we'll jump right in. This is the agenda for the presentation. We'll just open by talking about SPS and how we are navigating the school choice movement and how that movement is impacting the need for us to really target and clarify our message and set ourselves apart from other districts. We'll talk a little bit about how we're sharing the SPS message, and specifically number 3, how that will be reflected in our focus for the 25-26 school year. We will then transition. We'll talk about the strategic plan updates, including our SMART goals and key metrics that we use to monitor progress in the communications department. Then we will celebrate a few big wins from the last school year and also conclude by looking ahead. So it's important to note that as we look to the future of SPS, we do need further clarity in our message so that we can engage families to join SPS in our effort to become Missouri's district of choice. We certainly have begun that important work through the rebranding effort that we began last summer and fall. We've made great progress on that, but we will continue that as we lean further into our message in the coming school year. It's important for us to talk about how the school choice movement is impacting the decisions that we make with the communications and marketing efforts that we have put forward for our district. What is school choice? We hear a lot of conversation about that, but it's important to really hone in on the movement. It allows parents to select an educational setting for their children beyond assigned public schools, and it does include a variety of options, including charter schools, private schools, magnet schools, homeschooling, virtual schools, and open enrollment. We've heard Dr. Lathan and other members of the board talk many times about how we support every family's decision to make whatever educational choice is in their family's best interest. But we are steadfast supporters of public education, and we believe that for any community to be healthy and vibrant, there must be a strong public school system at the heart of that community. That is why we are so passionate about the work here in Springfield, certainly. But what this choice movement does is it creates a more competitive environment in public schools. And so you'll hear us talk about marketing maybe differently than you've heard us talk about it in the past. Typically, when people hear the word marketing, they think about business, for-profit businesses. But we are called upon as good stewards of taxpayer dollars to run a business in like environment with schools. We also need to market ourselves and set ourselves apart as we attract students and families into our district and retain those that we have. How are we doing that? How are we navigating the school choice movement with our current communication efforts? We are highlighting our choice programs, and that includes a variety of choice programs from our magnet schools that you heard me talk about a little bit earlier today, the whole school, school within a school, our college and technical education programs, launch, all of those things. You will see an example of how we do that at sps.org/choice. That is a screenshot of that webpage. And you will see a summary of all the different ways that we feature choice for SPS students. You know, we have been, for many years, an open enrollment district. As long as there is room within a school, within the boundaries of the Springfield R12 district, we have an opportunity for families to transfer their student into that school. We offer many choice programs. We talk about choice, and many times people assume that that means magnet programs, but there are many other choices that are open to families within Springfield Public Schools, and we're going to be focusing about broadening the way we talk about choice moving forward. We began that with our rebranding efforts last year. And you will see that we will begin marketing our district through advertising and direct mail, similar to what you saw this year with what went out to all of our staff and our families. This is the 3rd year that we've done this. We will continue to do this with our internal families to make sure they're aware of the many opportunities that are available to them. We'll explore new ways to engage with current families, but we also want to broaden the reach so that other families that may not currently be enrolled in SPS understand the many things that our district has to offer. So more to come on that. The other way we're really leaning into our message is broadening the way we engage with stakeholders. We also want to be more transparent. We've heard a conversation about what are students learning in public schools today. One of the charges that Dr. Lathan brought to our district was to become more transparent in the way we share our curriculum and how all of that is aligned to the Missouri Learning Standards. You see that on our website. There is no question about what a student in any given grade is learning within Springfield Public Schools. You can drill down by grade level and find out what the curriculum is and how that curriculum aligns with the Missouri Learning Standards. We are inviting stakeholders into our buildings through strategic events like SPS University. We are engaging stakeholders through the SPS Ambassador Program. You'll hear a little bit more about how that is growing in a few minutes. Principal for a Day is welcoming the business community into all 50 of our schools twice a year. Superintendent Solutions is something that Dr. Lathan has introduced to our district, where we are engaging stakeholders, asking them to come in. We want to hear from them. What is working? What can be improved? And then we're focused on demonstrating how we're using that feedback to shape how we move forward. And we are so excited that this year, Superintendent Solutions will continue to expand to include student voices, high school students, and they will be a part of that conversation in the coming year. Finally, new is our School Choice Showcase. We tried that for the first time this spring in April, where we invited every elected representative in the state of Missouri to come to SPS and to see how we are offering choice to our families. And we had a great response. We had most of the members of the State Board of Education, many of our city council members, and some of our local representatives came. They went with us for tours inside SPS schools to see how choice is being offered, and we received a great deal of feedback. And I believe we're going to be highlighted at an upcoming State Board of Education meeting as a result of what individuals saw up close and personal. That leads us to how we will see the theme really incorporated into everything we do at SPS this year through I Choose SPS. And we'll begin by looking at this year's video.
I choose to be a bus driver for SPS, so I get to see the kids first thing in the morning.
Being able to be SPS Teacher of the Year and get to showcase the importance of PE and how much we do educate the whole child and what these students are coming in and learning, I think is huge to be able to spotlight that. So I'm very grateful for SPS.
I've been with SPS for 10 years now. My kids grew up in SPS schools. It's pretty cool to be able to feel like SPS is more than just a job, it's more like family. I choose SPS because I want the kids to be proud to have a home field advantage.
I choose SPS because I care about the education and safety of our children. Without those teachers and without my experiences, I wouldn't be where I am today.
I love that no day is the same. Who shows up through the door every day and the impact that we can make as educators.
I choose SPS because I want to become a pilot.
I choose SPS, and we choose SPS.
I 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 choose SPS because I live in a community that believes in supporting public education. I choose SPS, and I hope you will too.
So that's an example of how we continue to lean into our brand messaging. And again, we talked last year about how a brand is so much more than a logo. The district had a logo before, and now we have a brand, and that includes strategic messaging, and we will continue to roll that out and implement it in all that we do, and it's a part of our work each and every day. How will you see the I Choose SPS concept reflected in SPS this year? We will focus on the new branding. We will focus on that secondary choice messaging. We will feature I Choose SPS profiles. You may have noticed a profile of a teacher, a new teacher at Westport K-8, who was featured as part of our Future Educators graduation or signing ceremony. And he talked about how education has made a difference in his life, how the Future Educators program made it possible for him to become a teacher here at SPS, and how he wants to use his personal experiences to help other students. So you will see more I Choose SPS profiles as we move forward. It will feature teachers, support staff, others in the community. And we will also personalize the I Choose messages for our individual schools and departments. At Learn, Lead, Succeed, our training for leaders at the end of July, we presented this and we encouraged our individual schools and department leaders to begin to think about what sets them apart. What are they doing to distinguish themselves and to welcome people in, whether it's recruiting or retaining staff, if it's welcoming students and families to their building. You don't have to have a traditional magnet program or choice program to demonstrate how you are unique and how you are offering choices to families. And so we're encouraging Team SPS to really personalize this as we move forward. Celebrate the why behind why they choose to work or attend SPS. Identify and what makes them unique and communicate that. And then ultimately, we want to leverage these efforts to advocate for public education and specifically for our school district, because we are doing amazing things to offer choice for our families right here in our community. And we're doing it without being told how to do it. Let's transition now and talk about our strategic plan and updates from the communications team. If you recall, these are all the different audiences that we consider when we are crafting a strategic communications plan and communicating and engaging throughout the year. It really engages all of our stakeholders. And we have a variety of communications channels there to reach those different stakeholders. Here are our SMART goals. So we have SMART Goal 3.1 and 3.2. The first one is about that annual strategic communications and engagement plan, which we provide every year. It lives on our website for the public to review. It is a living document because we want to enhance that as we can throughout the year. And then SMART Goal 3.2 is about recruiting, retaining, and celebrating the partners, the volunteers in the community that make our mission possible. So these are the strategies that are underneath 3.1.1, creating and implementing an annual strategic communications plan. Here are a few key metrics. So communications, as you've heard me talk before, it's sometimes difficult to quantify the work that we do, but it's important to us to align our work with the strategic plan, to demonstrate metrics that stretch us. We want to demonstrate that we are committed to growing, and we want to report that growth back to the administration and the board. One key metric is the latest e-newsletter. This is a newsletter that goes out twice a week, on Wednesdays to staff and on Thursdays to families. And so you'll see there the stories that are featured and the number of emails that were sent, but we're really proud that our open rate continues to go up. We are up 2% in open rate from last year, and we're 4% higher than the industry average. And I think that's a testament to the fact that our team has been very intentional about trying to streamline the communications that we are sending across the district and really route that through the latest as much as possible. On social media, you'll see a number of engagements there across Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. One thing I really want to highlight here is the growth that we are seeing on LinkedIn. That is a 5% increase in engagement over the year before, and it far exceeds the industry average of 2.8% engagement. So you see 17.4% engagement of those that follow our LinkedIn account. So that's really where we've seen a lot of the growth on social media. We will continue to lean into that. When you look at web traffic, we seem to be about even from where we were over last year. We have exciting news that I'll talk a little bit more about at the end. We will be launching a new website in January when we return from the winter break. And so we will be rolling that out, and I think we will see much improved and enhanced experience for all of our stakeholders. More to come on that. With that, we expect that we will have upgrades to the MySPS app as well. Thought Exchange, you will see that we are down a little bit in the engagements on that this year, and that is partly because we are making a decision to move away from that platform to SurveyMonkey in the coming year, because we believe it will be easier for us to integrate that across all departments. The analytics that we will receive on the back end of that survey will also be much more helpful for our team as we move forward, so more to come on that. And then finally, Let's Talk. You'll recall that is a widget that lives on our website, but bottom line is it's a way for people to connect quickly to the right person in SPS to get their questions answered. And it's important for us to do that in a timely way. We want the individual to be routed to the right SPS representative. We want them to receive a response within a very timely manner, and we want to provide them with exceptional customer service. So you'll see the number of dialogues submitted over the last year through Let's Talk. We maintain a very healthy customer satisfaction score of 8.4 with the expectation that we respond within a business day. The top 3 topics are listed there for the dialogues that come through that platform. This is a very exciting metric to share with you, and it's brand new because it's the first year that we are reporting on this platform. You'll recall, with board support, we consolidated the communication tools that are used to communicate from the classroom home, using Seesaw for elementary students and then Remind for secondary students. So you'll look, we had an incredible response, and I want to give a shout out to our information technology team, to our curriculum team, to all of the learning divisions, the principals, the teachers who embraced the vision behind this. You would not see these metrics if the system had not got behind this and deployed this effectively. You'll see millions of messages sent through these platforms to families over the last year. You'll see that an average of 9,000 students received messages each month through Remind. 34,000 plus visits to student portfolios to see student work at the elementary level. And if you see the chart below, that shows you the spike in messages over the year. Do you see that little spike in the middle there? Any guesses on what that's related to? AMI days on snow day. So you'll see that that is a very critical time for our teachers to be communicating expectations to families and students. And so you'll see that reflected in the data. We will be doubling down on our efforts to continue adhering to using Seesaw and Remind as the platforms to communicate home as we further improve that experience for families. Special events this year, you'll see a number of these that you're familiar with. Back to School Bash, again, drawing more than 6,000 people, 45 community partners, 4,500 backpacks with school supplies, 5,000 hygiene kits, 5,000 bags of groceries. You'll see Good Morning Springfield, the State of the Schools address, that Dr. Lathan gave at Glendale High School this year, drawing more than 350 attendees from across our community. And also our Back to School Kickoff, drawing more than 3,500 SPS staff. I want to highlight the second annual Unity Girls Empowerment Tea. That is just an impressive event that's drawing more than 100 community leaders as mentors for our students. And we're hearing meaningful stories that come from that important event. I did want to highlight that this last year, SPS University, as we continue to refine that event and be responsive to our community, we featured a focus on mental health, and we had a mental health panel. We were at Kickapoo High School, and we allowed opportunities for families to engage the panelists with questions, and it was very well received. We kept every other part of the event the same. We still had the community resource fair, free dinner, childcare, but that mental health panel was well received, and we're going to try that again this fall. And instead of doing breakout sessions after that panel, we are going to allow more time for people to engage the panelists with questions, because we saw that they were really hungry to ask more questions of those individuals. So you'll see more of that to come. Just very proud of all the different ways that our team continues to engage all of our stakeholders throughout the community. With employee recognition, we had a great year engaging with employees a little differently. We have employees of the month that are highlighted in each of our departments and each one of our schools. We also have principals, department directors nominate people to be featured in front of the Board of Education. We bring that to you in the form of a video and introduce the employee at the end. We also offer recognition for service anniversaries, and we will continue to do that this year. We'll now transition and talk about some of the key metrics associated with SMART Goal 3.2.1, which is around volunteers and community partners. We had nearly 2,000 approved volunteers over the last year, but here's what we're really proud of. If you look at the number of volunteer hours recorded through Hall Pass, checking in and out of each of our schools, we are up from over 12,000 volunteer hours the previous year, now up over 15,000 volunteer hours. So that's great to see people engaging with us more throughout the school year. In addition to that, 298 volunteers supporting our Back to School Bash, 14 outstanding volunteers, and a Volunteer of the Year that were recognized at our annual event. That is Nancy Smith right there, featured with Dr. Lathan, who is a volunteer at Hickory Hills K-8. And we're seeing more engagement with our volunteer e-newsletter. Do you remember earlier when I talked about the latest and we had a 39% open rate, which was 4% higher than industry average? Take a look at that, 71% average open rate. So we're continuing to provide content to our volunteers that they find helpful, and we're seeing them increase their commitment in volunteer hours to the district. Similarly, with partners, we so appreciate the 45 community partners that helped with the Back to School Bash, the 110 Principal for a Day participants, the 2 events last year. We are seeing SPS ambassadors continue to grow, interest from the community, but also interest from our own staff members. We're now offering 2 different cohorts, one for the community and one for Team SPS, because our own staff, as you saw when we recognized them here, say, we want to learn more about the district outside of the department or the school where we work. And that can help us tell the story about all the ways that SPS is serving children. And then finally, Ready, Set, Supply continues to be our work in the community to supplement back-to-school supplies for our children who need it most. We're proud of our customer service work. That is also a part of collaborative culture. We have a superintendent's liaison that works very closely with stakeholders that have questions and concerns that come into our central office. Look at this total from last year, more than nearly 2,000 phone calls, different Let's Talk dialogues that were managed, emails from stakeholders, face-to-face conversations right here at KAC. But here's what we're most proud of, is the work to provide customer service to our frontline team in SPS, the administrative assistants who work in each of our schools and are oftentimes the first face that our stakeholders encounter every day, the ones who are answering the phone, providing answers to questions. We have a monthly e-newsletter that goes to administrative assistants that continues to provide timely, relevant support for them. We're offering 3 trainings for administrative assistants throughout the school year. That photo right there was from late July at Sunshine Elementary, where elementary administrative assistants were welcomed back. So we continue to be proud of that work and the focus on outstanding customer service. Now let's just talk about other big wins for last year. We were so pleased to help promote the Read to Succeed campaign, which had great results throughout the year. And you see we're celebrating a 2.2% increase in ELA scores for MAP and EOC. And we set a 2% goal last year, and we knew that was going to be a stretch. So to see that success is really a great thing. We mentioned the School Choice Showcase for state legislators. We will continue to offer those opportunities this year. And we were so excited to be a part of celebrating progress as promised with the 6 elementary storm shelter gymnasiums that were brought online last school year. And we're so excited to celebrate that work. Finally, we were recognized by the National School Public Relations Association again this year for the rebranding, the strategic rebranding of SPS, as well as by the American Advertising Federation in Louisville for a successful strategic rollout of our new SPS brand. I want to thank the communications team and also all of Team SPS, because a brand is only as effective as how it is embraced and rolled out across a system. It's difficult to do it well in a system this large, but this is really an award for the entire team. Also just want to say that with the National School Public Relations Association, this year we received the Golden Achievement Award. That is 5 Golden Achievement Awards in 2 years for our district, and those are very rare for a school district to receive across the country. We also were asked to present on strategic district rebranding at the MSBA conference, and we did that with Dr. Lathan and with the board, and with Dr. Thomas Tate was a part of that as well. We co-presented on the attendance initiative with Dr. Hackenworth and with Dr. Lathan at the AASA Superintendent's Conference. And we were also asked this summer to present on strategic communication and public relations at DESE's annual administrator conference. As we look ahead, There are many opportunities in this coming year for our stakeholders to engage with SPS. In addition to the events that you see here, we also have opportunities for our staff to engage, including Gather with Granita, which continues to be an opportunity virtually for staff members to join. There's no agenda. It's just an opportunity to visit with our superintendent. Many times Dr. Lathan will break the ice by sharing a few key updates, but then it really is up to the employees to drive what that conversation looks like. And if there are questions presented during that we don't have immediate answers for, Dr. Lathan always traps those, makes sure that we follow up with those employees to get them the answers that they need. So we will continue this focus on engaging our stakeholders in the coming year. And with that, I open it up to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions from fellow board members? Board Member Muhammad Khani.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm sorry, I just now noticed this, or I would have asked you earlier. On slide 29, can you help me remember, I've seen that number before, 2.2% increase in ELA scores for MAP EOC. Is that the Galileo scores at the end of last year?
We can talk, I know Mr. Douglas can explain a little bit about that calculation and what that represents.
That's our initial preliminary results.
That is our initial, okay, I didn't know that was.
APR, yes, it'll be
No,
tied
don't
into
talk about
APR.
that. Okay.
Yes, so that is what we have
I was like, wait,
shared
what did I miss?
based on our preliminary results of the 2.2% from MAP EOC from testing this past May.
So this just kind of snuck in here.
Yes.
Well, and the reason we chose that is because that's tied directly to our Read to Succeed initiative. And so when we set that goal for Read to Succeed and we decided to promote that heavily, we wanted to be able to close the loop and say the preliminary results are showing that we're moving the needle. I think so. We talked.
It's not official until it's finalized through on the report card by DESE. But like I said, that's why we want to make sure everyone knows it's preliminary.
But I love to really highlight information that's forthcoming, and I think it's safe to say that we believe you'll be very pleased with what becomes official in a few short months. Good news coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hall. At this time, let's take, we've got several items left on the agenda. So let's take an 8-minute break. Ms. Raymond, 8 minutes, board members. Just to get up, stretch, use the facilities, whatever you. Well, thank you all for allowing the much-needed break. And it's now time to get back to business. Item 6.02, a 3-year transportation plan. Director of Transportation, Mr. Keith Adams, will present the 3-year transportation plan to the board. Mr. Adams?
Good evening, Dr. Lathan and board members. If you thought Stephen had a lot of slides, just wait. I've got about 50 to get through with you, so let me find a clicker. So this is our 3-year roadmap for the transportation department. What we're really doing is we're getting comfortable with the size where we are right now. We've realized we can sustain the number we have. And so this is a plan to get us to a point where with our current resources, we can bus more students. That's where we're heading. So to align this with the strategic plan, initially I was going to put this all in number 2, organizational efficiency and excellence. But really, when I started looking at it, it really falls into all of the strategic plans. So if you look at success-ready students, this plan strengthens attendance. It strengthens participation in programs and student readiness. With organizational efficiency, we're identifying smarter and more efficient and sustainable ways to serve more students within our existing resources. With collaborative culture, you'll see at the end, this plan has been brought to quite literally every department in this district to make sure that we took every feedback we possibly could and more outside of the district. And then with quality learning environments, you'll see multiple ways through this presentation where we're improving the environment on the bus. So we're going to go through 25-26 first, and then we'll head on to 26-27, and then give you our vision for the 27-28 school year should everything work as planned. With 25-26, we'll go over some celebrations because I'm not going to not take the chance to give you some celebrations on the transportation department. And then we'll get into just some basic information before we really get into the strategies for the 25-26 school year. So celebrations today, first day of school, was the first time we were able to have all of our bus routes fully air conditioned. And thank you. So if you ask drivers, you ask attendants, you ask students how important that is to them, that's a huge deal. And we were able to do that through our FY25 capital purchase of 8 new air-conditioned buses. We had a grant that helped with that from the Department of Environmental Resources. We also, with our FY26 capital, have already taken delivery of 2 out of the 6 used buses. Those are all air-conditioned that we bought. They're very newly used buses. And then we've retrofitted 12 newer buses that were non-air conditioned. We've added air conditioning to those. So that's how we were able to get our numbers up to the point of being able to have all 104 bus routes with air conditioning. For the 25th year in a row, our shop staff has earned the Missouri Highway Patrol Total Fleet Excellence Award, which is a huge accomplishment to get it for 1 year. So to get it for 25 years, we get it. It's a new benchmark every 5 years. So 25 years is a huge celebration. That means that 90% or better of our inspections of our 146 buses came up with 0 defects, not even a light bulb out, nothing wrong. This year and last year, we did 97.9%, which is only 3 out of our 146 buses with any defects and 0 buses with any out-of-service defects. So they didn't pull any of them off the road. They were all things we could just fix right there. Where's the Bus has been a huge success. You'll notice these numbers have gone up because I took them today, now that people are back to school and downloading the app. We now have 3,800 parents tracking 4,300 students with the app. So they're able to see where the bus is, what their students' busing information is, a live ETA to them that tells them how many minutes away it is, but also they get notifications as the students scan on and off the bus. They'll get a push notification. So that's been super successful. We're well over 50% of our riders being tracked on the app now. Last year, we were able to finish outfitting all of our buses with a new 8-camera system. Our old system was very outdated, and it was 4 internal cameras only. They only lasted about 4 days worth of footage. We're now at 8 cameras, which is 4 internal, 4 external, and it lasts 2 to 3 months that we can pull footage. And it's just a very state-of-the-art system that has 100% uptime because it tells us when it breaks. So when that bus gets back, if there's a down camera, it'll send us an alert saying that it's down. That way we can proactively fix it instead of waiting to need the footage to finally get it or to find out that it's not working. So those cameras have been a huge plus. One of the neat things, those external cameras, not only are those really good to have in an accident because we can see what happened outside the bus, but there's a screen for the driver, and when they put on their left turn signal, that left camera comes on. When they put on their right turn signal, the right camera, and reverse, the reverse camera. And that really, you have some blind spots when you're driving a bus, especially on the passenger side and definitely behind you when you're backing, and those cameras really bring it all together for them and start to eliminate those blind spots, which is really important. Continuing on with celebrations, today was the first day that we were able to expand elementary eligibility. So with elementary, intermediate, and K-8 as of today, we're down to a mile, which is the state-funded maximum. If we go below a mile, the state won't fund it. So that added 1,100 eligible students to our rolls. As of a couple weeks ago, 500 of them had registered. We're probably over 700 at this point because we've had a lot of last-minute registrations. But the really cool thing that happened, my routing team, when I told them that that's what we were doing, and I told them we were going to do it for only 3 additional routes to get to 108, they looked at me like I had 3 heads. But then they went and really tackled the project, and they, for lack of a better term, started from scratch with routing. And they were able to do that for 104 routes. So we're right where we ended the school year last year, but with 1,100 additional eligible students. So that's a huge success from them. And I can't tell you how proud I am of that team. 25-26 busing registration went really well. In years past, that's been a real struggle for us, making sure everybody that wants the bus gets registered for the first day. So this year, we had over 8,000, and there's only 11,000 and change that are eligible for the bus. We had over 8,000, so 71% opted in or out for the bus. Last year we were at 5,700, so that's a huge bump. We did that through 5 email text combos, which means you get an email at 10 a.m. and then a text later on telling you to check your email, telling you to register for the bus. 2 robocalls, the same messaging, and then 3,683 individual phone calls to kids who were riding the bus last year, according to Where's the Bus, but hadn't registered yet for next year. We really wanted to get them because we knew if they rode last year, they were probably going to ride again. So 3,683 individual phone calls to those families trying to get them registered. I won't say we didn't have any phone calls last week and today with last minute trying to get on the bus, but it was a lot less than when it usually is. And then coming soon is the Cropper Maps tool. It'll be a public-facing tool that allows you to go on a map portal and see your eligibility for transportation, but also your boundaries, and you can see them very clearly on a map. So that's very helpful for the public and internal folks to use, and we should be able to launch that within the coming months. So the biggest celebration of all, if you ask me, is driver and aide staffing levels. So today was the most comfortable we've ever been for startup because we had extra drivers sitting around that could go, and when a bus was running late due to their roster checks and things, we had additional drivers that could go and run their next tier for them on time. And so that was the most comfortable we've ever been. Startup's very difficult because of all the roster checks and things, but the staffing that we've been able to achieve helped tremendously and should set us up for a really good school year. But we've attacked that from 3 angles. You can try attacking it from one angle, but you're not going to get anywhere. So we've attacked it from the recruitment standpoint, of course, the retention standpoint, but also the routing standpoint. So you'll see, if you look at the last 3 startups, 23-24, we had 104 drivers for 110 routes. So you can do the math there. We're 6 short of running our routes without any call-offs. So that's 95%. Last year, we were super excited. We were at 120 for 106 routes. So we brought our staffing level up and we brought our routes down by being more efficient. And that was 108%. This year, we're at 124, including the 5 that are in onboarding right now, for 104 routes. So that's 119%. So that's a much, much better place to be. Our fully staffed number is 120%, and we're getting dangerously close to it. So that's really exciting, and you can see a similar story in the bus aids. You see startup in 23-24 was 41 for 47 routes, and this year we were at 46, including 4 that are in onboarding, for 40 routes, so a much better place to be. And our application flow has stayed strong and is continuing to come in, and we believe we'll be able to be fully staffed very shortly. So for informational purposes, because it comes in later on when we start to talk about expansion, this will be our last year busing Reed to Old Jarrett. We're currently busing all of Reed Middle School to Old Jarrett while the new Reed gets built. That takes us 4 to 5 really extra buses on Tier 3 to make that happen compared to just the ones that are eligible. So the completion of the new Reed would eliminate the need for those extra buses on Tier 3, and again, that comes in later on. Just to remind folks of what Pay to Ride is. Pay to Ride is in the case that a student is not eligible for the bus but still wants to ride the bus, we offer what's called Pay to Ride. And so the requirements for Pay to Ride are an empty seat on that bus, no rerouting required, so we use existing stops that are already there, and then the fee has to be paid. The fee is $750 for the year, which is tied directly to what DESE says it costs us to transport 1 student for a year. It's actually just below it. It's $764 right now. So $750 is just so that we can keep up with what DESE says it costs us to transport a student. For free and reduced lunch, it's half of that, so $375. And we charge that per semester because we make the Pay to Ride decisions per semester. Last year, we transported 88 students. I believe we had around 250 applications this year, and it's yet to be determined how many we'll be able to transport because we wait until the 2nd week of school when we've been able to see how much room is actually on the bus once students are actually riding. So something that was approved earlier on the consent agenda but is definitely worth noting is purchase of 2 sped buses. So with what's left in our FY26 capital funding after the 6 used buses and the 12 retrofit air-conditioned buses. We're purchasing 2 sped buses for $188,000 each. These are 28 passenger count, so these are full-size buses, same size as a regular ed bus, but with 28 passenger count. That's counting 2 per seat. That gives you room for 2 wheelchairs, or you can remove a couple more rows and have room for 3 wheelchairs and 24 seats. Every seat has a 3-point seat belt, and every seat has an integrated 5-point harness. That just gives us the most flexibility to be able to serve the most special needs that we can. But the really interesting thing that does is allows us, if we ever had to evacuate an early childhood center, we've got a full bus full, well, 2 once these come, and we do have some at transportation already that are fully outfitted with those 5-point harnesses. Those are the buses we'd be taking to evacuate an early childhood center so that we're not having to worry about throwing car seats in really quick. So that's really neat to have. But the thing that makes these buses different from what we traditionally purchase is they have a front wheelchair lift instead of a rear wheelchair lift. So traditionally, our wheelchair lift is in the rear. We load the student in the rear, and then they ride in the rear. So I don't know if you've ever been in the back of a school bus, but back from the back axle back is kind of like a diving board. It's pretty bouncy. Up in front, when you're between the axles, it's a much more stable ride. So by having the wheelchair lift in the front, it allows for a much smoother ride. It also allows the wheelchair passenger to be up with their bus attendant instead of behind their bus attendant who's there to monitor them. But then it also integrates them better with their peers. They're not in the back of the bus. They're getting moved up to the front of the bus, integrated with their peers. So it's a really exciting thing for us. We're going to try out these 2 and see how we like them. It's the first time we've done front wheelchair lift, but we're really excited about them. We're trading in 2 of our older regular ed non-air conditioned buses towards the purchase, and pulling a little bit in from bus engine capital just to make sure we had enough. But we're excited to take delivery of those probably in January or February, so we should see them this school year. So when we start to look at where we can find efficiencies within the transportation department, one place to look is where is our growth? And you see a lot of codes on the left there, but the ones that are important for this conversation you'll see on the key there are community-based, early childhood, foster care, McKinney-Vento, and pay-to-ride. And the major growth you'll see, and you'll see 1 column for each of the last 4 bus attendance reports, which we take every fall and spring. So the major growth from spring of 24 to spring of 25, so year over year, is in McKinney-Vento, which is our unhoused students, and special needs. And with the McKinney-Vento kiddos, they're usually living outside of our district or far outside of their boundary. So each one of those is very logistically challenging to get across town or out of town to pick them up. So that growth is alarming and very logistically challenging. And special needs, not to the same extent, but we do have quite a few of them that are out of their boundary that we're bringing into a special program. And so those growth numbers can be logistically challenging as well. Another way to look at this is to look at which programs are going the longest distance. Anytime we can stay really close to a school and transport a large amount of students, we're more efficient in our big buses. But when we're going longer distances is when the efficiency starts to go down. So you'll see the programs with the longest mileage are community-based, choice, ESSA, which is our foster care, McKinney-Vento, and Scholars. And so those are the programs we're going to be talking about tonight of some better ways that we can transport them in a more efficient manner, but also better for the students at the same time. So to break it down to a dollar amount, we look at per pupil per route, which quite literally just takes how much does that bus route cost, divides it by the number of passengers on that bus, and you get your per pupil per route number. Our regular ed average is $4.70 per pupil per route. Now, when I talk about 746 routes, I did just tell you we have 104 routes, so those are route segments. So those 104 routes are built by 746 little segments that build them. 3 tiers in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, potentially some middle of the day segments. So 88 of our 746 route segments, 12% of them, are $47 or more per pupil per route. That's 10 times more than the regular ed average. Those 88 buses only transport 159 students, so that averages 1.8 students per bus. So big yellow bus, 1.8 students. Moving on, 32 out of our 746 segments are over $100 per pupil per route. That's 35 students on those 32 buses, so you're just over one passenger on each of those buses. 160 out of our 746 routes, 21% of them are 5 or less students on a bus. 82 of those are during tier time, and tier time is really important to us because every one added route we have to hire another driver and purchase another bus. So those 82 are especially taxing on our system. With community base, averages $50 per pupil per route and maxes out at about $150. That takes 11 tier 3 routes to transport 44 students, and 13 of those are going 7 or more miles. McKinney, Vento, and Foster averages about $10 and maxes out at $305 per pupil per route. That's obviously an out-of-district student that we're going to transport. And then Choice and Scholars averages $8 per pupil per route and maxes out at $15. So what we're here to propose tonight is to use EverDriven for our most inefficient routes. So EverDriven is smaller vehicles, 5 passengers or less. You're talking minivans, cars, wheelchair vans, things of that nature. All of the things that we can offer, they can offer. So sped equipment, wheelchairs, bus attendants, the car seats, all the things that we can offer to accommodate, they can also offer. Their drivers per deci meet the same requirements that ours do, short of a CDL, but they do have the same background checks, physicals, training, drug and alcohol testing. With drug and alcohol testing, it's pre-employment, post-accident, and random, just like we do. They do have cameras in their vehicles, and they will dedicate the same driver to routes, which is a really important piece to us. We didn't want to have a new driver every day. We want to be able to give that consistency to our students, which is what we strive for in our buses, is to give them the same driver every day. It's exactly what we want to strive for in cars as well. So we'll watch this quick video that'll kind of explain to you how their system works. Hey, Sean.
Successful school days start with great trips to school. For some students, those trips can look a little different than the traditional yellow school bus. EverDriven facilitates safe, reliable transportation for students that need special accommodations on their rides to school. Our district portal allows district administrators to upload school calendars, manage student data, and submit transportation requests to secure customized rides that meet each student's unique transportation needs. Using our proprietary routing technology, we match every child with a fully vetted, Safe Ride certified, EverSafe driver, vehicle, and route that will best meet their needs and provide them with the safest and most efficient ride to school. For students and their families, we have EverDriven VIP, our very important passenger app. With EverDriven VIP, families can view EverSafe driver and vehicle information, track the status of their trips, and see estimated arrival times. And because we know consistency matters, we strive to provide students with the same EverSafe driver every day. Families get peace of mind with EverDriven VIP through trip tracking, notifications, and upcoming trip information. Need to make changes for a sick day or a vacation? Cancel your child's trip right from the app. Beyond ensuring driver and monitor consistency and fit, our robust and proactive screening process allows us to uphold our commitment to safety and maintain the highest standard in the industry. Safe Ride. That's our promise to the families and schools we serve. Students arrive at school as scheduled. They are dropped off with an authorized member of the school's staff who can track the trip and view vehicle and driver information through EverDriven VIP. Families are notified and the day gets off to a great start. When transportation meets the unique needs of the students, it sets them up for a successful day at school.
So when we talk about what we could transition over to EverDriven, we look at four main places. The number one is those that are inaccessible by bus. A few times a year we run into the scenario where a student requires curb-to-curb busing on their IEP, but they live at the end of a dead-end road with no turnaround, nowhere to turn a bus around. In a lot of cases, we'll meet them at the corner, but in some cases, that's just not an option for the families. And that kind of leaves us in a position where we can't serve them. So this would give us an option in those cases. So that's obviously priority number one. Priority number two is long ride times and transfers. A lot of times, especially McKinney-Vento kiddos that are coming from, say, Willard or Stratford or Republic, they end up on the bus for quite a long time. We'll have to go pick them up before running the bus route or even before running the tier before that they're on. So they end up hour and a half, sometimes upwards of 2 hours. Sometimes they have a transfer in there. But then even harder than that is when we've got kiddos in ISC, intensive support classrooms, or EBS, emotional behavior support classrooms. They're going all across town to make sure they're going to a program that they need, but they end up on the bus for a long time as well. And putting a student who's already struggling with behaviors on the bus for a really long time is not great for anybody. So those would be our priorities, the longest distance and ones with transfers, just to improve them, because with EverDriven, they'd be able to get a ride straight to school and go a lot quicker. If we had any excess midday routes that we're not covering with our internal staff, we would consider moving those over to EverDriven. A lot of times those are one student at a time. It's your reduced day kiddos that we'll go pick one up at 10:30 and another one at 11, another one at 12, something like that. Luckily this year we've got all of our middays covered with our internal staff, and we plan to keep it that way. That's good for our staff. It's extra hours for our staff, so we don't want to take that away. But in past years, we've gotten to the point where all of it's not covered, and we're having to beg people to do it or even use our internal office and shop staff to cover them. Instead of going back into that place again, if we ever have to, we would instead consider putting it on EverDriven. But then the biggest one here for future expansion purposes would be community-based. If we could free up those 11 Tier 3 routes, it would be immediate help for athletics trips that are trying to run during that Tier 3 timeframe, but then it also sets us up for future expansion that we'll talk about in a little bit. But to be very clear, we currently operate 104 bus routes with 125 FTE, and that's where we want to stay. We're not trying to use this to cut that in any way, shape, or form. We're trying to serve more students within the size that we've determined that we can sustain, which is 104 bus routes. So our goals is to reduce long ride times, eliminate transfers and inefficiencies, and create capacity to expand within our current system. So a cost analysis that I'll run through real quick with you. 142 out of our 746 route segments would technically be cheaper to be ran with EverDriven when you're comparing apples to apples. If we were to do all 142 of those, which we're not recommending because a lot of those are middays, that would save us $9,000 a day. But where we really need to look at is our tier time savings. So you'll see where it's really heavy is in that Tier 3 realm, and that comes in really important later on when we talk about expanding. That Tier 3 is where a lot of that expansion takes place. Midday routes, 84 would be cheaper to be driven with EverDriven, but like I said earlier, we're looking to keep those in-house as much as our drivers want to drive them and our attendants want to work them. We want to keep that work available for them because that's a big part of the reason that they come to us is because they can get full-time hours with us. Our goal number one would be to enable tier time buses to stay within their assigned boundaries. So instead of having to run to Willard before you run your Kickapoo route, you could stay in your Kickapoo boundary and be a lot more likely to be on time and not have to get stuck on Kansas or whatnot. Goal number two is to open up Tier 3 for athletics and for future expansion. But first things first would be those longest distance sped and McKinney-Vento students. Our plan for 25-26 would be to transition one at a time as they ramp up operations here. There is no minimum number of trips on our contract with them, so if we do one and realize it's not something that's working out for us, we can backtrack and pull that one back, put it back on a bus, and not move forward with it. But really importantly, this allows us to not outpace their abilities. So we're not counting on them to have 50 buses or 50 cars ready tomorrow for us. We're counting on nothing tomorrow, but then as they get drivers available here, we'll transition over some of our kiddos over to their system. So like I was saying, our transition plan would be to slowly transition over, and our goal would be to get to 100 routes by the end of 25-26. And while that sounds like a lot, that's really only 50 a.m. and 50 p.m., and the average would probably be around 1.5 students per route. So we're talking maybe 75 to 100 students, which is only about 1% of our system, but it's the most inefficient 1%, which then allows us to expand to a much bigger level. Whenever EverDriven is unavailable, we will go take a school bus. If EverDriven was to call me and say, we just cannot transport this student today, we will have our route sheets ready to give to a sub-driver to go run it in a school bus. That's how I'll sleep at night, knowing that we will get that student to school no matter what. So the average cost, if you look at all the routes that would be cheaper with EverDriven, the average cost would be $62. So 172 days times 50 routes, because if we start at 0 and get to 100 by the end of the year, it averages about 50. If you look at that, it comes out to around $533,000 for the year. Our average cost, if we were to transport them on a bus, is $123, so that comes out to just over $1 million. So the savings there is just over $500,000, where it's cheaper to run with EverDriven than in our own buses. So the recommended action tonight is going to be to approve a pay-as-you-go not to exceed contract for $750,000. The reason it's $750 and not $533 is twofold. Number one, if they are able to ramp up faster than we expect, that allows some room for that. But also, our first ones are going to be the longest distance ones, so they're not going to be the $62 average. They're going to be towards the higher part of that, and we'd be transporting them for most of the year. So I don't foresee it being $533,000. I foresee it getting closer to that $750, and that's why that's what we're recommending. And this is available for purchase through the Omnia Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. So this wouldn't go out to bid from here. This would be approved, and then we'd start moving forward with them right away. And before I take questions, I do want to mention our representative from EverDriven, Travis Berry, is here tonight. So if you have questions that I can't answer, I've got backup. He's from EverDriven and can answer any questions you might have. And we do still have 2 more years worth of presentation here, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that piece before we lose track of it.
Any questions from fellow board members?
Susan.
Board Member Provance?
You were talking about how much you would just save. How much would it benefit just not putting all those extra miles on your buses?
Yeah, and so when we look at savings, it's a direct how much less it costs us compared from running a bus to just paying them to do it. But there's a lot of things downward that also affects. And like you said, miles on the bus, that is a lot less miles on the bus. And so there's a lot of not direct savings like the $500,000, but more savings beyond that. But honestly, the biggest piece beyond money to us is the students that are currently on the bus for way too long, and we want to get them a quicker ride to school. And so that's the big piece to us there.
Vice President Kincaid, question?
I have a brief question. Thank you for this presentation. I know that you did a deep dive into the many options that the district had available. Can you remind us how you landed on
EverDriven. Yeah.
EverDriven? Thank you, EverDriven.
Yeah, so these conversations were normally pretty quick with me when these vendors were reaching out, and that's for 2 reasons. Number one is they require a minimum number of trips, and I don't want to commit to something that I can't see. I want to see it with my own eyes be successful. So not having to commit to a minimum number of trips was a huge one. Cameras in their vehicles is another huge one that we've grown to rely on those cameras in a lot of circumstances, and especially if we're going to use an outside vendor, we really want to make sure we have that footage in case something comes up. And then lastly was that they could dedicate the same driver every day, because we see that in our own buses, when we have a different sub-driver every day, the on-time performance is horrible, but also the relationship with the students, you got a fresh a fresh person every day that's trying to build those relationships. If you can get a consistent driver, they build those relationships and get to know their students, and it just makes it a much more successful trip for everybody. So for all of those reasons, EverDriven was the only one that I frankly didn't end the conversation quickly, because they checked all the boxes that were non-negotiables for us.
Did you reach out to other districts who use EverDriven, and if so, what was their response?
Yeah, so we've talked to, there's a lot in Missouri, but we've talked to Wichita, which is about twice our size and uses it pretty much on anything that can be 5 or less students. We've talked to Columbia, who uses it for 40 of their hardest to reach McKinney-Vento kiddos. And we've talked to Hickman Mills, which is actually a smaller district, but they use it for 215 of their students every day. Pretty much a majority of their SPED kiddos are transported using EverDriven. And it was across the board great feedback. There wasn't a single piece of concerning feedback in there. It was extremely highly recommended for their on-time performance, for their ability to come through for you when you have one, and they can find a driver and get somebody going. Just across the board, really, really good feedback from those. So that was really encouraging to us that there's other districts that are using it and have been successful.
Other questions? Board Member Thomas Tate?
I have a couple questions. One, this is an annual contract with EverDriven. Do we know for EverDriven with the school districts that they've worked with in the past, how steady has their increase in cost happened over years? Like, is it, how long have they been in business, and how steady have their costs grown over time?
So I'll answer that in 2 ways. Number one is, while it is a 1-year contract, there's options to renew for 2 and 3 years at 3% each year, which is very respectable. Mm-hmm. The last thing I want to do is get really used to using them and have our rates skyrocket. The one thing that protects us from that is, to be frank, we could run this on our own if we wanted to. Right now, it is much more cost effective the way they're doing it. But if that ever did happen, that would be our back pocket plan, is we could purchase vehicles and run it ourselves this way.
Yeah.
But then talking to Hickman Mills, they've been using them for 7 years. And the interesting thing with them is their previous vendor had gone bankrupt the week before school started, 7 years ago, I guess it was. I may not be remembering exactly correctly, but EverDriven was able to come through for them and has been a successful partner with them for 7 years, which was really encouraging to see.
Board Member Huff?
Yes, thank you. This is wonderful work, and I want to just say just a shout out to your team for looking for efficiencies and ways to get our kids to school more efficiently. I mean, it sets public schools apart, certainly, but the work that your team is doing is really incredible. But I also wanted to make one point that you shared with us ahead of this presentation. We're also, with these McKinney-Vento, we see that, was it 57% increase, 47% increase year over year. There's some reimbursements that we're leaving on the table that I don't think are included in that savings number, correct?
Yeah, so what happens is when you have a student living in an outside district, each district, when they're McKinney-Vento eligible, each district is responsible for 50%. A lot of times we try to partner with them and say, hey, can you bring them to school and we'll bring them home from school, or vice versa. A lot of times the smaller districts are not able to do that, and then it fully falls on us. In that case, we are able to bill them for that 50%, but that is an absolute nightmare to keep up with. A lot of these kiddos are very transient, so they'll move quite often, and we only bill for the excess miles. So we would have to constantly be calculating the excess miles and billing them for that. So EverDriven helps us in 2 ways with that. The first way is when we get a bill from EverDriven for a specific student's transportation, we know exactly how much now, 50% of that, to bill to the other district. But if those other districts will hop on board, and you'll see later when I talk about who we've pitched this to, we've talked to every one of our surrounding districts. If they are also an EverDriven customer, they'll just split the bill up front, kind of like you're at a restaurant and they split the bill. So we would only get 50% of the bill to even begin with, and we wouldn't have to worry about calculating it out or anything like that. So that's savings that could add up pretty substantially. We had 30 out-of-district students last year. We did bill for one of them because it was extreme. It was 50 miles per day extra. But for the most part, we can't keep up with it, and we don't bill. This would allow us to recoup those funds.
Board Member Provance?
God forbid, if there was to be an accident, if it's an SPS bus, we know who they sue, but do we have a liability? What is our liability?
Yeah, I can't guarantee who people will sue. I can pretty much guarantee we'll be part of that, but their liability insurance fully covers when the student is in their car. So the main liability falls on EverDriven.
Thank you, Keith.
Yep.
Kind of a follow-up to that, their liability insurance would cover it, but to the extent, for whatever reason, it didn't cover it, our insurer is aware that we would be partnering with EverDriven, and I assume they've given their blessing for that, or at
Yeah,
least
so
legal has.
this has been through, the contract has been through risk and legal and all of that. I can't say for sure what they did with it, but it has been through all of those channels and is ready to go. We've gone back and forth on some certain wording, and all of that has been worked out to where risk and legal are comfortable with it at this point.
Other comments, questions? Board Member Mohammed.
Thank you for the presentation. I know that for as long as I've been on the board, busing has been a challenge, and this is probably the best first day we've ever had. And kudos to you and your team for not just thinking outside the box on this, but for getting it done. Just sometimes you just got to go back to scratch and rebuild from zero, because you can only work something for so long. So thank you for taking the time to do that, and this as well, for thinking outside the box and being innovative, as Sarah said here. So, but I did have one question. When you mentioned that, I'm glad that we can go through the cooperative to get the purchasing agreement. Is the reason, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that we don't have to go to an open bid because EverDriven is the only company that can provide what we want, which is driving the students with a camera, same attendant? Is that what makes them unique? And it's sort of like a sole source purchase is the way I'm
So
I'm
it's
thinking
not
about it.
sole source. With the purchasing agreement, there is an entity, Omnia, that has gone out to bid for these type of services and awarded it to EverDriven, and then we can piggyback on that
Okay, so
award.
we're part
So that's
of-
why we're able to. Why we want to is everything we talked about. Is
Okay, right. So are we part of this cooperative? And we use them for other things? And so they, by using them, it allows us to have gone through, they go through that process for us.
Yep.
Essentially. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. And just to your point on the best first day ever, we dropped our last student off at 5:47 today, which is 40-something minutes quicker than last year and well over an hour better than the year before. So we were really excited about that. So thank you. And then to your point on the starting routing from scratch, this is Kyle. He's our SPED McKinney-Vento and early childhood router. So huge task there, and knocked it out of the park. So we're very excited and very proud.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, Mr. Adams?
2 more years.
Yeah.
Okay, here we
And
go.
I'm going to bet the two of you were good math students would be because this is a huge math problem. So yeah, your math teachers would be
I
proud.
only made it to Algebra 2, so I don't know. Okay, so going into 26-27, we're going to share some information, and then we're going to talk about some strategies, and then some potential strategies should everything with EverDriven be working properly and as expected, what we're able to do. So we're going to talk about Choice and Scholars. Choice and Scholars, one of the main things that's been brought to my attention since I started is we really need to be able to bus Choice and Scholars to give better opportunities to these students to sign up. And so just to give you a summary of where we are now, right now we bus some Choice and Scholars programs home to school. others on a shuttle system, and others not at all. And so this proposal just brings that all on the same playing field. But to give you an idea of what we're doing now, for AFPA and Scholars, we're currently busing them from their home to Central High School. Scholars get off there. AFPA then transfers off of those buses onto one bus that brings them to AFPA. So they're getting home to school service. That takes 7 buses on Tier 2, both AM and PM. But because some of those kids live so far away and we can't fit it all in Tier 2, it overlaps into Tier 1 in the morning and Tier 3 in the afternoon by 2 buses each. So that's really heavy usage there for those 2 programs. Academy of Exploration we do on a shuttle from Jarrett Middle School up to AOE. That's 1 bus in the morning, and it's overflowed into 2 buses. At least last year it did. We're still waiting to see this year if we can fit on 1 or not. But regardless, 1 or 2 buses on Tier 1. With Health Sciences Academy, that's 4 buses on Tier 3 in the morning and 2 on Tier 3 in the afternoon, busing them from their home to HSA. The reason it's less in the afternoon is Tier 3 is the end, so we can run those a little longer. In the morning, we can't start Tier 3 till we're done with Tier 2, so to get them all the way across town, it takes 4 different buses to do that. Ag Academy and Wolf don't get any transportation other than we do give them a shuttle from Ag to Wolf in the morning and Wolf to Ag in the afternoon so that they can attend the primetime program at Ag, the before and after school. This year we were able to combine that with a Parkview bus, so it's not taking a whole bus, it's taking part of a Parkview bus to make that happen. So those numbers won't count in any of our calculations. To put it back to the per pupil per route metric, Choice and Scholars, when we're busing them home to school, averages about $8 and maxes out at $15. But if you look at that AOE shuttle, it costs us about 92 cents per pupil per route, which is obviously the more efficient way to go. And it's important to note that none of this is reimbursable through DESE. So this all comes out of the SPS budget for any choice busing we decide to do. So the proposal, being that the shuttle is the far more efficient manner to go, would be to put all of choice on shuttles. And so we do that with 4 buses on Tier 3 and 4 buses on, or 4 on Tier 2 and 4 on Tier 3. So you'll see how that breaks down on Tier 2 in the morning. So just for an example, Shuttle 1 is your North Wolf and Ag bus. So it takes kids from Hillcrest, Pipkin, and Parkview. That's where it picks them up. And then it brings them to Wolf and Ag. So the parents would be responsible for getting their kiddos to Hillcrest, Pipkin, or Parkview, and we would bring them the rest of the way to Wolf and Ag. Shuttle 2, for example, is our Southern Scholars, AFPA, and OTC. It picks up at Glendale, Kickapoo, and Parkview, and brings the kiddos to AFPA, OTC, and Central. The reason OTC is on there, even though we'll continue to do an OTC shuttle, our current shuttle system ends up late to OTC, especially for the high schools that are farther away from OTC, because it waits for all of the high school kiddos to get in on their home to school buses before it leaves for OTC. So you take that Kickapoo bus, it's probably 15 minutes beyond when classes start at OTC by the time it gets there. What this will do is open up a solution where if the parents can get their kiddos to one of the shuttle stops, we can get them to OTC on time. And then North Scholars AFPA OTC is Hillcrest and Central to Central OTC and AFPA, and then South Wolf and Ag is Glendale Kickapoo to Ag and Wolf. Those same 4 buses would then continue on to Tier 3, and this is what they would do on Tier 3. A Southeast AOE and IB. We saw an opportunity to include middle school IB kiddos in this so that we can transport them to their program at Pipkin. So we pick up at Glendale for that bus and go to Pipkin and AOE. With Shuttle 2, we pick up at Hillcrest and Pipkin and go to Pipkin and HSA. At Shuttle 3 is just HSA because a heavy piece of HSA is our southern part of our district. So we would pick up at Kickapoo and Pershing and go straight to HSA. And then Shuttle 4 would be Kickapoo and Parkview to Pipkin and AOE. I'm not going to bore you with the afternoon parts because it's the exact opposite, but just know that we pick them up where we dropped them off and we get them back to where we picked them up in the morning. So just a vice versa there for you. But what this does is allow us to serve a lot more programs than we're serving now. So right now you'll see we're serving AOE, AFPA, Scholars, and HSA. This allows us to serve AOE, AFPA, Scholars, HSA, Wolf, Ag, middle school IB, and gives us that early OTC solution. And resource usage, we're actually saving resources by doing this. And so you'll see on each tier how many we use now and what we would be using, which is just 4 on tier 2 and 4 on tier 3. And where we have savings, we save on tier 1 and tier 2 pretty significantly. And so what that does to our numbers, 26-27 would probably be at 104 on tier 1, 102 on tier 2, and 96 on tier 3. That's how many routes on each tier. With these savings, it would bring us to 102, 99, 96. And it does leave a little bit of room on tier 2 and tier 3 in case any of those shuttles need more than one bus. We did the math and we don't think they will, but if more kids sign up than we expect, then we do have a little bit of room to wiggle. The advantages are obvious. Transportation service for all of the choice programs, but it really enhances the opportunity for people to participate in choice. There's a lot of students that probably wouldn't even put the lottery application in because they have no way to get there. But if we can pick them up at their closest high school and get them all the way across town, that may open up that opportunity for a lot of families. Significant resource savings, much shorter ride times. You take these kiddos that are going to Scholars from all the way across town, they could be on the bus for an hour and 15 minutes. That's why we overflow into tier 1 in the morning and tier 3 in the afternoon. These shuttles are 20 to 30 minutes tops because we're going straight from those shuttle points to the schools. It eliminates the transfers at Central. So right now we bring in AFPA kiddos on 13 buses into Central. They get off those 13 buses and transfer onto one bus that takes them over to AFPA at Central's bell time. So it's a cluster, to say the least. The fact that we've been successful with that is because the drivers and choice staff that are on site are committed to making sure it works and that nobody gets lost, but it is still a huge ordeal. And so this eliminates that. It eliminates the AM Pershing transfer for kiddos that are going to HSA. And it creates an opportunity for OTC, and it absorbs those Wolf and Ag Academy primetime shuttles so that we're not having to use a Parkview bus anymore. Some challenges, AOE would have to switch from tier 1 to tier 3. The biggest challenge really is that it eliminates home to school busing for Scholars, AFPA, and HSA who've gotten used to having busing from their home to their program because now they have to get to a shuttle stop. And it requires car line supervision at each of those shuttle stops. The drivers really will be on a schedule and they'll have to drop and go, and we'll need to have supervision at those sites to be able to monitor them, and that way they're not waiting for parents to come. So for that choice piece, is there any questions on that?
Dr. Mahatmakani?
Okay, so I had a quick question on, so for the Scholar students, the ones that live far away, so this is much better for them because they go to Glendale, Kickapoo, or I suppose Parkview, and then it's a short shuttle ride over. But for the students that already live in the central zone, they're going to get bused still, right?
No, because we don't have a shuttle stop that's anywhere closer than what they already are if they're living close to Central. So they could go get on at Pipkin per se, or I can't remember which ones go to Scholars, but there would be no need to because
It's only
they're
from the
close
high
enough.
schools that we go there. So currently, though, all the students get bused in, and this is such an improvement for the students that live far away. But for the students that live close by, so their alternative would be to either get to Central or to maybe go on pay to ride.
Yeah, so it really puts them on the same playing field as the rest of the system where like a parent would have to get them to Glendale to get the ride into Scholars. If you live close to Central, it'll just be your parent has to get you to Central, and there would be
So that's
no
the only
option.
fraction of students that would lose busing. It's a win for everybody else.
Yeah, it really just puts them on the same playing field as the entire rest of the system, yeah.
That's the only question I had, but as I sat here and thought about it, I had just a couple more points on Everdriven. Do you want me to stop and come back, or do I just?
It's probably fine right now.
Okay, so real quick, when you talked about the drop-off and the pickup, and you said it can be a cluster, so it made me think about Everdriven. So normally you have the bus that comes and all the kids get off, and there's somebody there to manage that. So Everdriven, their individual cars and vans. So would it be the person, I don't know how it works, I gotta be honest, but I'm assuming there's somebody to receive students when the bus drops them off.
Yeah, so just like the parents can track and see where the car is and when the car is going to get to them, the school has that ability as well.
So there's
and can
gonna be
receive that
somebody,
student.
is it gonna be the same person that's in charge of receiving the ever-driven students and getting the ever-driven students onto the ever-driven cars?
That would be up to the school on who they
Okay.
want to assign to monitor that piece of it. But
So there's gonna be,
with McKinney-Vento, they may be able, depending on the student, they may be able to just be dropped off at school, just
for
like
the
the
older
buses do.
kids, high schoolers, I get it. for
But
the-
with some with special needs and an adult required piece, there would be an adult on the other end that would have to receive them, and they would have an app telling them exactly when that student was coming in, what car they're gonna be in, who the driver is, what the license plate is,
So
all of
that's
that.
all gonna get worked out, okay. And
It's all part of their app.
I meant to make this point of clarification earlier, and I didn't do it. I just want to make sure that everybody who's listening understands that when you were talking about savings, those are dollar savings, but we're not going to have a change in staff. We're going to have the same staff, because as you're getting ready to talk about, but there's not going to be fewer people working for SPS.
Correct.
And I just wanted to make sure that that was said.
Yeah, our plan is very clearly to take the staff that we have now and the number of buses we have now and use them to bus more students. And that's what we're going to get to in a minute. But that's the whole idea of this, is how can we better use those resources at the number we've proven we can sustain to serve more. And that's the whole point.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments?
I had a comment. I just wanted to say that expanding transportation for choice programs has been a goal of mine for a very long time, and I'm so grateful that you and your team have worked this out. What I love about you and your team is that we give you guys the problems and you guys come back with solutions. And I rarely hear you say, no, absolutely not. You usually just say, I'll try to figure it out, and generally you do. So thank you so much. This has been a huge goal for a long time to get more ridership for the choice programs.
Thank you.
Board Member Kincaid?
Just a brief question. So right now, some of our choice programs are being bused from their house straight to the choice program. And I know I've asked this question before, but I'm going to ask it again. Nobody knows why some of those choice programs are being bused from house to school and why some choice programs are provided no transportation whatsoever.
All I can assume, because I've only been here 2 years and it's been since long before I was here, all I can assume is that they asked really nicely.
Okay.
When people ask me really nicely, I try to do whatever I can, but I try to do it equal across the district, what I can do for everybody. And so all I can assume was there was a time that there was a really big need and an ability to do it, and we did it. But really, we want to be able to bus all of choice, and to do that, we want to do it on this type of system where we can actually sustain that.
Yeah, and this proposal will give more opportunities to more students to be involved in choice programs.
Yes. I can almost guarantee that, because if you look at the kiddos from the far south of our district that are able to attend AOE, it's a significant population. That's because there is that shuttle there for them to ride. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't foresee all of those parents being willing to drive all the way up to Hillcrest or to AOE to drop them off. So I think that shuttle is proof that this system works and allows kids from across the district to attend those programs. And so we're just taking that model and applying it to all of choice. Cool.
Of course. Board Member Makani?
I'm not in the habit of ever answering anybody's question, but I'm going to take a stab at this. My understanding is that the only choice that we bused for was scholars. Is that correct?
No, I don't know. We were just.
Yeah, so it's just scholars. There's nothing else that was getting bused for. And, you know, a lot of people that are listening may not know that there's a difference between scholars and the other choice programs. So scholars is not a lottery program. It is very unique in that, and now there's state law that governs gifted services. So if we didn't have it before, we'd have to do it now. But it's a completely, and I don't want to say that it's merit-based, it's a qualification-based. And long ago, Springfield Public Schools decided they were going to have an IB program, and as part of that commitment, this is how it evolved. So it's not everybody can apply, and then they draw your name out of the hat. And I think that maybe
Sure, but
that had something to do
AFBA
with it.
and Health Sciences Academy, we provide transportation for,
Yeah.
and OTC,
But
yeah.
are they from home to there, or is it from a central location to
AFPA
there?
and HSA, we bring them from their home right now.
From their home?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
and
must
with
ask
AFPA
really nicely.
With AFPA, we tie that in with our
Oh,
scholars
I didn't know
kids.
that.
AFPA, we pick up at in the same buses that we're picking up the scholars kids, and then we transfer, once we drop the scholars kids at Central, we transfer those AFPA kiddos onto a shuttle.
But that's
that
from
brings
their
them.
home.
But that picks them up at their home, at the same time it's picking up scholars
And
kids at their
HSA
homes.
also is from their
At their
home?
home, and then we transfer them onto a shuttle at Pershing that brings them to HSA.
Oh, but it's not to the program, it's to someplace, and they have a transfer. Those
They-
kids have a
they- They do still
transfer.
get picked up at their home. The only reason that it does the
Mm.
transfer at Pershing is because they participate in before and after school activities at
Yeah.
Pershing. Otherwise, it probably would just take them straight to HSA.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Hmm.
This
Well,
just puts
it
everybody on the
seems more
same
fair now.
playing field. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Mr. Adams?
So for informational purposes, Bissett and Bingham, being that they'll be under construction in the 26-27 school year, obviously there's transportation piece to that. Bingham, with being relocated to Old Jarrett for the 26-27 school year, currently we use 2 regular ed buses on Tier 1 to bus Bingham. This would require 7 regular ed buses to transport all 430 students across to Old Jarrett, which would add 5 buses to our Tier 1. Bissett being relocated to Old Sherwood, we currently have 0 regular ed buses. They all live that close to their school, and that's on Tier 2. This would require 4 buses to transport all 200 over to Old Sherwood, which would add 4 to our Tier 2. Same thing we're doing for Reed right now. So without the construction transportation, after the choice plan we just talked about, we'd be at 102, 99, 96. This would put us at 107, 103, 96. Which is not an ideal place to be, both from an efficiency standpoint, but also if you look at this from a driver retention standpoint, there's 4 drivers that only come in for an hour in the morning because they don't even have a Tier 2, let alone a Tier 3. So not a great place to be. So what we'll be doing is shifting Bingham over to Tier 3 for that year. By doing that, it moves all 7 Bingham routes over to Tier 3, which puts us at 100, 103, 103. And mind you, we're at 104 this year, so there's no additional FTE needed to be able to transport. And so we're able to do it within our current resources. But very importantly, this also makes it so that these kiddos aren't having to get up ridiculously early, because if we're having to transport them to Tier 1 from Bingham's boundaries over to Old Jarrett, we would start picking up around 5:30 in the morning. And I don't know anybody that wants to get their kindergartners on the bus at 5:30 in the morning. So this just moves them over to Tier 3. It makes it a little more reasonable for them. So kind of a win-win there. And that would just last for that 26-27 school year. And then back to EverDriven, we would just plan on the 100 that we're trying to get to by the end of this year, where we're trying to ramp up to. That's where we'd want to stay, and that's what we'd want to do for the 26-27 school year. So, like I said, it's an estimate of 75 students. It depends on how many they can put in each car, you know, how many are going to the same location. But we figure about 75 students, 50 routes AM, 50 routes PM, only if it's cheaper and logistically wise to do so. That would include all of community-based, that's those 11 Tier 3 routes we were talking about, all out-of-district students, and some long distance out-of-boundary McKinney-Vento, some long distance out-of-boundary SPED, especially the ISC and EBS classrooms we were talking about, and then of course areas not accessible by bus. But what's really cool is when they get to a certain size, and Travis will tell you when they get to 50 routes, I'm conservative, I call it 100, but whatever you want to call it, when they get to a certain size, they have enough excess drivers in town to where they can unlock what's called on-demand. Normally, we need to give them 48 hours or so to get a student routed. On-demand is more like an Uber. We need a ride right now. And that kind of opens up a whole new world of possibilities for us. Just some examples, if you have a student stuck at practice with no ride home, we could theoretically call an EverDriven for them. Our student attendance advisors do a lot of taxiing, a lot of bringing kids to school. This would be another option for them if a student missed the bus or needs a ride to school. They'd have the ability to call. It would be an immediate solution for McKinney-Vento and SPED. McKinney-Vento is required to give that busing the next day when they see the need. So, and with us, we route school buses, we do routing changes every Wednesday. So sometimes there's a delay there to get them onto the bus. This would be an immediate solution that would bridge the gap there to get them till the next Wednesday when we would put them into a bus, or just have them in an Ever-Driven for a longer term. So really exciting what that, I mean, there's a million possibilities with that, but I won't go into all that tonight. So our rates, like we were talking about, are locked in for 3 years at 3%, which is really important because I don't want to get used to something and have a huge increase the next year. So our estimate at 100 routes for the new average, which is 6386 with that 3% increase, would be just about 1.1 million. But for comparison, that would cost us about 2.1 million to transport those students in a bus. So there's a potential savings there of about $1 million that it would be that much cheaper for them to run. Like Miriam was saying, that we're not planning on cutting that. We're planning on better using those resources somewhere else. So I want to be clear on that. It's not literally shaving $1 million off. It is reallocating that to bus more students, but it's all reimbursable from DESE. So either way we go, whether we transport them in a bus or transport them in an Ever-Driven vehicle, those are reimbursable expenses from DESE. With this, we'd be able to shift community-based to Tier 2. That's where community-based wants to be, because these are high schoolers, and they want to be on the same tier as their high school peers. That would allow them to do before and after school activities with their high school peers, different things during the day, band and things like that. They'd better be able to participate if they were on Tier 2. We've always kept them on Tier 3 because that's where we've had room to bus 11 buses. But if we shift them off of our buses and into Ever-Driven, they'd be able to move to Tier 2, which they'll tell you is where they really want to be. And with that, it would put us at 100, 103, 92 for that school year. So questions about that school year before we get into 27-28, which is a much quicker one.
Questions? Let's go.
Okay. Get us out of here. All right, 27-28. So as we were just talking about, that would open up quite a bit on Tier 3 because now that 92 goes down because now Bingham's back in their building, Bissett's back in their building. Sean. So that way for 27-28, we've got what looks to be 17 open routes on Tier 3. And while that would make it really easy to do all of the AM field trips in Tier 3 time and PM athletics trips in Tier 3 time, we also want to be able to serve more of our students with home-to-school busing. And so what we would potentially be proposing is bringing down our middle school eligibility. And so right now, as of today, our elementary, intermediate, and K-8 students that are a mile or more from their home get busing. That's what our eligibility limit is. And that is the maximum that DESE will fund. So DESE will not fund below a mile. So we're doing the maximum for elementary, intermediate, and K-8, but our 6 true middle schools are still at 2.5 miles. And so with those 17 open Tier 3 routes, we could bring that down. And so just for an example, if we were to bring it down to 2 miles, that would add 127 eligible students. About 97 is how many we guess would ride. That would be 5 additional Tier 3 buses, still leaves 12 open, and we're still at 102 for the year for our number of routes. And mind you, we're at 104 this year, so that's even less than we're at. If you go all the way down to a mile, that adds 752 eligible middle schoolers to our rosters. About 579 is what we guess would ride. That would take about 14 extra Tier 3 buses. That would leave about 3 open for athletics on that Tier 3 time, and we'd still be at 102. So this is all a potential, should Ever-Driven work the way we're planning on it working. This is what we could be proposing to you for the 27-28 school year. But more potential for the 26-27 school year, we would want to bring read and Pershing down to that lower eligibility, whatever we decide that is, whether that's a mile or whatever. We would want to bring that down a year early in 26-27, and there's a very unique reason for that. So Reed right now, we are busing all of Reed to Old Jarrett. So everybody is getting busing. For 26-27, when they're back in their new building, they'd be at 2.5 miles. And then in 27, 28, they'd be going down to that new level, whatever it is, say a mile. So that'd be very confusing for parents, and they'd go from 0 to 2.5 to 1. Pershing gets even more confusing because Pershing is currently a K-8 school, so they're currently at a mile. Next year, they will be a true middle school, so they'll be at 2.5 miles. And then if we expand in 27, 28, bring it down to a mile, that just got really confusing for them too. They went from a mile to 2.5 back to a mile. So what we're proposing is for only 3 buses on Tier 3, we could do that early, do it a year early next year. So as long as we're sure that we can do it for 27, 28, we're proposing doing it a year early for Reed and Pershing. So back to 26, 27, with that, it would put us at 100, 103.95. So 103 is still our max. We're currently at 104, so we're not adding any FTE or anything. So just to wrap it all back together, this is just a summary of where we've been and where we're going. So 23-24 was 110 routes. 24-25 was 104 routes. 25-26, we've increased elementary and K-8 eligibility and intermediate and stayed at 104 routes. 26-27, we'd be enhancing choice busing and actually coming down 1 to 103 routes. And then 27-28, we'd be increasing middle school eligibility and coming down to 102 routes. Now, mind you, those numbers are plus or minus a couple. It totally depends on how many students sign up to ride the bus. But that's our math of where we feel we would be, and we're usually fairly conservative. So kind of like we expected to be at 108 this year, and we're at 104. So that's kind of a holistic picture of it. And when I told you I collaborated and engaged every department, I meant it. So since May of 25 is when we brought you the choice piece in the small group meeting. But then as this grew to something bigger, we've been to everybody that we felt that it would affect. And not only have we presented it to them, but we've taken their feedback and built it into this. So quite literally every line in here, there's been some feedback that has shaped this presentation. And you'll see we started with the Teamsters because the last thing I wanted is for our drivers or the Teamsters to think that we're trying to eliminate positions, because that's absolutely not what we're trying to do. This is actually a huge improvement for our drivers, because a lot of times when we've got McKinney-Vento students out of district, we're constantly changing their schedule. So today they punch in at 5:30. Tomorrow that student has moved, so now they punch in at 6. And then next week they punch in something different. So this is actually a huge improvement for their routes as well, and they're able to stay near their schools, that their boundary schools, and stay better on time. So we've brought this through, we put it through the whole transportation staff last week at our back to school Genesis Day. We've also met with our neighboring districts. We brought them in for lunch and met with them. So we've really brought it in front of everybody we could think of. So questions on anything else?
Board members, questions? Comments? Okay, Board Member Kincaid.
All right, I'll start. Thank you so much, and it was Kyle, correct? Thank you, no, Keith, Kyle. Yes,
Yep.
yeah. Both to Keith and Kyle and your entire department and everybody who helped you work on this. It would, if you told me in 2021 that we were 100% fully staffed with bus drivers, in 2025, there is no way I'd believe you. So that speaks to you and your leadership. And I think it would be easy to just be complacent and say, we've got 110 routes, this is what it is, 2.5 miles, that's what it is. But I appreciate that you're looking at what do our students need? How can we remove the barrier of transportation? How can we transport more students more efficiently and safely so that, again, transportation is not a barrier. They can get to school and that's not a problem. So I just really appreciate that you all go above and beyond. I'm also, who was saying that earlier? This is truly, math problem. This is truly like a logistical nightmare, right? And you must be living and sleeping and breathing all of this. And I know that even one little change causes the domino effect that affects all other routes. And I just appreciate that you all have taken the problem by the horns and come up with some solutions that are going to benefit our students. So thank you for that.
Other comments? Board Member Provance?
I'm glad you see that there's absolutely no way we should put a child on a bus at 5:30 in the morning. They shouldn't be drinking that much coffee. Also, you're getting them home timely. By the time the buses are on the roads at evening rush hour, and I know it's particularly out by Cherokee, it's a mess, excuse me. One last little note. I saw 2 of your buses pull off Chestnut, going down Barnes, going to make their happy little route to Bingham. I gave them that little wave, and they were locked in at 2 and 10, baby. They had their blinkers on. They weren't following a car too close, safe braking distance. You and the Teamsters, your training, it's incredible. Thank you for taking care of our kids like that.
Thank you.
I'm just going to comment that I learned about 2 and 10 from Coach Don Provance in his driver's education class a million years ago. We know what 2 and 10 is. Other comments? Oh, Board Member Smart.
I want to echo what everyone has said tonight. Just thank you. Thank you to you and your team. Thank you to you, Kyle. And I can't think of anything that y'all haven't thought of. And you can tell that you have met with all these people and really, really tried to see what's best for the students, what's good for the parents. And want to thank you for bringing to our district Where's the Bus. I think that's what a great tool for the parents to know their kids are on the bus, when they've gotten dropped off, when they're getting picked up. I do want to say I'm glad they didn't have that when I was in junior high, as I might have, missed the bus a few times accidentally on purpose. And my mom couldn't drive. So, anyway, I won't go into all that. But anyway, just thank you and all the time and effort that you've put into this. And I don't think that the average community member or parent even knows. And I had no idea we were running buses to Republic or Willard until I heard this presentation the other day. So thank you so much.
Other comments? Board Member Mahatma Khani.
Well, I want to just say how much I appreciate your presentation style in the sense that you broke it up into pieces and gave us opportunities to ask questions in each segment. It just really helped compartmentalize each part, because sometimes when you're hanging on to it, it's just, and it may just be my own personal style preference, but I do think it makes it more digestible for the public as well. So thank you.
As a teacher, I will tell you, Board Member Mahatma Khani, that's called chunking. You chunk the lesson.
I figured you needed the data in chunks because it's a lot, so.
That's the short version, I guess.
That is the short version. This was the 50-slide version. The full version was 87, so.
Yes, it was.
And Dr. Lathan has heard it, I think, 4 times now, so.
Any other comments? Okay.
Can we just summarize?
Yes. Dr. Lathan, would you please kind of bring it all together
Yes.
for us?
So let's, once, thanking again, Keith. I mean, we said this a number of times, and Kyle and the entire transportation team. So thank you so much. Like I said, everything we've asked you to do, you've brought back the solution. So just to summarize, board members, so you understand what you're being asked to do. So for year 1, which is our current year, you're being asked tonight to vote on the Ever-Driven contract, and so that will come in 2 items shortly. 1,100 more students this year are now eligible to transportation based on your vote last October. For year 2, which is the 26-27 school year, busing for all choice students will be available. We will actually start advertising that, board members, in October when the choice application goes out. That was, like I said, that's the timeliness of this presentation. Also for 26-27 only, Bingham will move to Tier 3 during their construction phase. Then in 27, they'll go back when they're in their new building. Also, the base program for 26-27 will move to Tier 2. Once again, giving everyone ample notification as it relates. Once again, this opens up an opportunity for our high school students to participate in extracurricular. Also, if everything goes well with the expansion of for Ever-Driven next year, we will have some on-demand opportunities, not only on demand during the school day, but also as it relates to extracurricular and athletics, possibly after school. Board members, you will be asked to vote for the change in the eligibility criteria for Pershing and Reed for 26-27. So we'll bring that back to you later on this fall, because you will need to vote on changing that eligibility for 26-27. Then we'll be also bringing a recommendation, probably a little bit later though, for 27-28 to change middle school eligibility based on the mileage. So that's coming. And then year 3, which is 27-28, once again changing the middle school eligibility. So I think, did I get it all? Did I pay attention? 5 presentations later. All right. So once again, board members, thank you for your willingness to come in and hear the information in advance so that we could be prepared tonight based on also your suggestions and feedback. So thank you again, Keith.
Okay, moving on to item 7.01, health insurance plan renewal. Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Dr. Travis Shaw, will provide information to the board on this item.
I have a few less slides than 50, so we'll get through it pretty quickly. That was a shortened version too, so. Okay, so pleased to be with you this evening. Exciting things moving forward with our benefits plan renewal. As you know, we do have our own health benefit trust for the district. We work with Lockton, who is our broker, and they do a lot of work behind the scenes and advise us through this process. And so excited to bring this to you. There's a lot of things that will be a little bit different that will start in January, but we feel like very beneficial for the district and our staff. And so let's jump right into the highlights of the health insurance plan. For about 5 years now, we've been working to try to come up with an option, a good option, an affordable option to be able to give our employees, their dependents, retirees, a dual network option. And what we're bringing before you this evening is just that. And it's a dual network option where employees will truly have that choice to be able to use Cox or Mercy through the Anthem network. The current plan designs will stay basically the way they have been. We will still have a high deductible HSA plan. We'll have the base plan, and then a more robust buy-up plan for employees to have that option. One of the changes that will take place within our plans next year is how we fund and cover GLP-1 anti-obesity drugs. Currently, those are fully funded, just like any other drug and formulary medication. That is costing our health benefit trust plan. This year, we are estimated to spend almost $4 million covering that drug, and that's simply not sustainable. So part of what makes this change work is reducing that to where now employees can have up to a $2,400 annual health reimbursement account to be able to help cover those things, but it also takes a lot of the expense off of the trust itself. We are, as a district, recommending through this a 3% increase from SPS to fund premiums for employees. That will go up to from $582 to $600 per month per employee. It's a little more than 3%. I didn't like the $599 numbers, so I said move to $600, make it even. The one thing that we are changing a little bit, our buy-up plan is currently, the last report that we received was it was running at about 154%. What that means is that the money that's going into that buy-up plan is not covering the cost, and so we need to change and increase that over to that 4% for the employees on their dependents, and then also 1% on that base plan to help cover those things. And so with this increase of $600, we now will have $972 annually going into the HSA accounts for those that choose that high deductible plan. So again, another incentive for employees and to be able to choose that HSA, and that one is currently running very well right now. Dental insurance, we're going to continue with MetLife. That seems to be going well. That is another one, though, that is running at about 116%. Our district contribution will go up to $12 per month. This is a benefit that a lot of districts do not do. They have the benefit of health insurance, but they don't have a benefit of partial dental. And so this is still a good benefit for our employees. The renewal for 27 is capped at 5%. But initially, when we changed over and we went with MetLife, the district was taking on the bulk of that cost, which is part of the reason why that plan was running at over 116%. And so those employees that choose the buy-up, their rate will increase $6.67 per month for the buy-up, and then any employee on the base plan, that will increase $3.40 per month. Pharmacy, no changes. We will continue with Capital RX. Those rates are guaranteed through December of 2026. Stop-loss coverage is one that we did put out competitively to bid. It was one of the more challenging ones, and we did land on an 11% renewal increase, which is high, but it's actually less than what we were thinking we were going to end up being. Staying with the same vendor with QBE, nothing changes in the contracts, but that does add some cost for our plan. MedPay, they are our third-party administrator. They will continue to be our third-party administrator. One of the things that made this option with Anthem happen was we are going to continue to still be able to have MedPay do all of our claims filing. They are local. They have great customer service. Everything is done through them. There is going to be a $3 per employee per month increase due to the transition from Mercy to Anthem because of a platform migration, so we expected that as part of our cost. But excited to be able to keep that partner because they provide such great care for the district, and they continue to process those things rather than it being a national company to be able to do that. Something new that's not new, but it's changing, it's being added to. We currently have MD Live virtual care. Not a lot of our employees are aware of it, but that's a free online virtual visit with a doctor anywhere in the country. And we are going to be adding the behavioral health piece of that. And all employees and their dependents enrolled will be eligible for this free of charge beginning January. So it's a virtual care, especially on the behavioral health side, has been challenging. Just getting into the behavioral health side is challenging, and this is going to be an option that will help our staff tremendously. And then the employee volunteer benefit side of things. We are transitioning from Sun Life to MetLife for the critical illness, accident, hospital indemnity, and short-term disability. And we actually have some plan improvements to that accident, critical illness, and hospital indemnity. No changes to these other supplemental items that employees can voluntarily have. And I'm not going to read through those because you couldn't see those. So how do all of these things come together, and what are the cost implications for January, beginning January 26? So when I show this first one, the medical RX claims and HRA, there's several numbers that go into this. There was a significant savings by the changes that we made with the GLP-1, and that included even increasing the district's contribution of 3%. But we also then had some additional charges, obviously, by transitioning to Anthem. But all of those things together netted only an $80,000 increase. When we looked at the possibility of having a dual network last year alone with Cox and Mercy outside of Anthem, it was going to be about $2.4 million of an increase. And so being able to make these adjustments, really get competitive bidding that really helped our trust as well as the employees has been huge. You can see that $3 per employee per month from MedPay with that migration is $130,000 and change. The added cost to bring on the virtual care with the for the mental piece is about $55,000. The increase for stop loss was our biggest increase for one of the items, a little over $237,000, and then the increase on our dental side, a little over $26,000. So all of these things combined, we have a net cost implication to the trust of about $529,000, which we are super pleased with the fact that that's all that the increase is, and we can continue to provide great coverage for our staff with our dental and also our medical to still be able to pay 100% of our staff's medical premiums every single month is a big win. So in board docs, you saw the lengthy, very encompassing document that had all of these things written. And so we bring this to you to seek approval so that we can begin this work moving forward and get all of this in place. Open enrollment comes in the October timeframe, and then that way we can get ready and be implemented in January. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if you've got them. We've got Robert Ashentrop and Jessica Perez from Lockton here. So if there are questions regarding some of these specific things that I'm not able to answer, I'm certain that one of them can.
Questions, board members? Dr. Mahan-Makani?
How did you know?
Well, I just guessed.
Hey, a couple quick questions. So currently we have base, buy-up, and a high deductible HSA. And just to reiterate, we're going to fully pay for the base plan, and the 1% increase is only for their dependents, spouse or dependents.
Yes.
Okay. And then for the dental insurance, the base increase, $340 per month, is that for the employee themselves? Okay.
Correct.
So this is the first time I'm seeing any increase where the employee themselves
Right.
have to pay a
and
little
that's
bit more.
Previously, the district has taken on the brunt of
This
those
is a first
increases.
for this.
Yeah, and because it's running at 116%, we have to bring some
We
of
had
that
to do
cost
that.
back onto the staff.
Okay, and then the buy-up plan, I didn't even know we had a buy-up plan for the dental. Okay. That was the only question I had, but I did want to make a comment. This has certainly been on my to-do list, and this has been a vision of Dr. Lathan's that's finally coming to fruition, as you said, and I've been told to have patience, and it's finally happening. Because it's always better to have more access. But having said that, just because I'm fully aware of, just because something is conceptually very attractive to me and to us as we think about it, may not necessarily pan out in reality exactly. And usually it's because of little minor tweaks here and there. And so I know that we're rolling this out in January. And so I just want to make sure we get out and say that we are here. We think this is great, but if you don't think it's great and you know, rolling out something new like this, there's always things you don't anticipate that then come up. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows, we're not going to forget you. Come let us know when it starts in October, any hiccups, any bumps in the road, because I know there's going to be some. Whenever you do something new and roll out this big, it's going to happen. But it's very exciting, and I'm very happy and pleased to see this day.
This normally comes in September, but because of these changes, we wanted it to come to you all in August to be able to get this moving.
Other comments? Board
Quick
Member Huff?
question. On the HSA contribution, there is no matching requirement or contribution from employees, correct? That's kind of the industry standard, right?
That's
is you
correct.
Have to do
Right.
that, but we
Yeah.
just fund as a district.
Yeah, there's a certain dollar amount. I want to say it's $519. Is that the number that I'm thinking? Yeah, I think it's around $519 a month that it costs the employee, or it costs, the district covers $600. So of that, above that $519 then goes directly into the HSA account. Now, an employee can contribute more if they want, but there's not a requirement.
Anyone else?
I have a comment and question. Just to reiterate what Board Member Mohammed Khani said, so there is no increase to the employee this year for their health insurance?
No, only if they have dependents. The cost for the buy-up.
On the base plan?
Right, but if they have dependents, that does increase by 4%.
Okay. The other question I have, the $3 per employee per month for the transition from Mercy to Anthem due to platform migration, is that going to go away, or are we always going to pay an extra $3 per employee per month for this platform
That's a good
migration?
question. It's ongoing.
Okay. I'm surprised they didn't just roll that into their fees. But what kind of platform migration? I'm guessing it's software of some sort?
Well, yeah, because now they're no longer working, and if I misspeak, please let me know. They're no longer going to be working directly through Mercy. It's going to be through Anthem, and so there will be that changeover that they'll have to be able to deal with, so.
Anyone else? Our recommended action is that the board approve the health insurance plan renewal as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Board Member Kincaid moved, and Board Member Mahamakani seconded. Any other questions, comments? Let's vote. Let's see. Let's take another verbal vote. Board President can't get in. So there you go. We'll start down here.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 7 affirmative. All right. Item 7.02, Transportation Ever-Driven Contract. Our recommended action is that the board approve the fiscal year 26 pay-as-you-go, not to exceed contract with Ever-Driven for $750,000 through the Omnia Cooperative Purchasing Agreement R230901. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Board Member Huff. Do I have a second? Board Member Smart. Questions, comments? Let's do a verbal. Chair votes aye, that's 7. It passes. Well, mine finally came up. I didn't even vote.
No, I think Tammy.
Oh. Okay, thank you. All right. Item 8.01, 2023 change orders and agreements. Mr. Dilday will present information on the 2023 change orders and agreements.
Good evening. I promise I will not have 100 slides this evening, so we can move forward. In your board packet is the change order agreements since the last board meeting in June. I'll point out that we're starting to close out some of the projects, and we're seeing some refunds back on some of the funds. We're getting $179,900 worth of credits back on projects that was not spent. So that's good news to the bond funds. The recommendation is to approve change ordering agreements as presented.
The recommended action is that the board approve the expenditures as presented. Do I have a motion? Motion?
So moved.
Board Member Kincaid. Is there a second? Board Member Provance. Thank you. Questions or comments? Board Member Mahamakani.
On the change order for, let me find it. It's a really large amount, and it's a change order, so I wanted you to talk about that for Pershing, for Esterly Schneider and Associates. And it says that there was a A&E ad for revised project scope. So
Yes,
what,
so-
like, it's a pretty big revision.
It is a big ad. We changed the scope of the work. If you remember right, back in the beginning, that was going to be a renovation project with some addition. But as we progressed through evaluating that building, we determined that it would be a totally new building. It went from a $36 million project to a $49 million project. So that is the additional fees for architectural services for a new building versus a renovated building.
So the architectural and engineering.
I'm sorry?
So the architectural and engineering cost is this much more?
Yes.
You don't happen to remember how much we'd already paid? Or is it, do you start from scratch? Does all that money that you spent on renovation kind of get put aside and you start anew?
No, this is in addition to, so it's a.
That's what I mean. So you start all over again. So
Yes.
the money that's spent isn't, you go back and you start from zero and you have to pay.
So through I think I'm understanding your question correctly. Through the evaluation period, we determined that that would not be a renovation project, that it would be a completely new project. We paid for, we had a contract for their services for renovation. This is adding on to build and develop the entire new building with sports field and everything that goes along with it. So this is addition to.
Yeah, I see what you mean. In that sense, it's a change, but it's really what we agreed to.
Yes.
It's an agreement. And then the other one is for the Reed Middle School, the change that's 81,000.
Reed Middle School, 81,000?
Yeah, 81,000.
So that's a combined change order number 4.
Right, it's a
and-
whole bunch of things in there.
Yes.
And is this, a lot of it has to do with acoustics and all that, and I remember that one time where we had to change because of the city and all that jazz. So did we expect this, or is this par for the course? So like, what's going on here?
So basically, it's par for the course. As that project has moved forward, they've identified specific items, which is listed here, that needs to be improved, and most of that has been requested by SPS. So sound deafening, so if you remember right, when we toured that building, we had the band rooms and the choir rooms and all the performing arts rooms together. There is acoustical treatment added in those spaces, so you don't have bleed over from a space to
so
another space.
I understand that, so I'm just trying to understand how projects work. They knew all along that this is what it was going to be. So is this something, I've always assumed it was already baked in, and that the things that you have to add in the end are like, furniture and, electronics and things like that. But this type of stuff that's like hardwired, like doors and things like that, I thought that was all part of it. Or is it not?
It's improving what was originally designed.
Okay.
So it's making improvements to, original design was this, but we want it to be a little bit improved with the sound, so that would be an add to the scope of the work. Yes, ma'am.
I think I understand that. So, okay, I'm sorry, I'm beating this dead horse. So is this because we weren't able to communicate that this is what we really want from day one? Or is it because they didn't properly provide the scope of work and anticipate what it was going to cost to deliver what was going to be needed? Or is it a combination of the above?
It can be a combination of both.
Okay.
One of the things on there is we added plumbing for dilution controls for the custodial staff. So we don't have them hooked to direct sink. It has a faucet to the side that custodial can actually tie their equipment into. So that was a request by SPS.
Okay,
To better serve the building.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the projected savings? I thought I'd talked to you earlier, and Reed is going to be under budget. There's going to be a savings.
I don't have those figures before me this evening, but we
Ballpark? Okay.
I'll get them to you.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to tell you something incorrect. Yep.
Other questions, comments? Let's vote.
You want to do a oral?
Well, I'm up. Oh, let me try.
You remember?
Oh, well, I'm optimistic. It's not showing Board Member Smart or Board Member Mahatma-Kani. Well, okay. Well, let's do an oral vote since we don't have it on my screen. Thank you.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 7 affirm. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Okay. Item 8.02, quarterly bond update. Executive Director of Operations, Mr. Sean Dilday, will remain at the podium and provide a presentation and a video update.
So As we have been moving through the summer months, we have had a tremendous amount of activity. The 2023 quarterly bond update, it changes. I mean, I go to these buildings and everything is just changing so rapidly. So some exciting stuff. As you can see on this map, the impact of the 2023 bond issue, every one of those check marks is the buildings that we have touched through the 2023 bond projects. Project sequencing, as you're aware, Mann, Wilder, Pittman, Watkins, Cowden, and Holland are storm shelters that we have completed. And we saw those rebates on change order agreements of funds coming back to SPS. But Reed Academy, we toured Reed Academy, and a beautiful building, and we will have that building ready to open next school year. Anticipate spring, that building be complete, and we'll move in over the summer months. Pipkin Middle School, it's changing rapidly. You go by every day and there's something different. Croslands is really moving quickly on that project, and we anticipate that building being done on time, and it's going to be a very nice building. Pershing Middle School, Ashley Schneider is our architectural firm on that project. We're in design currently, working with the administration for the building, and look forward to bringing that project to you in the near future. Bingham Elementary, that will be a tear down and a rebuild of that building, and we're in design phases right now with that, and hope to have that building bid out in the spring, and construction will start as soon as we end the school year this year. Bissett Elementary is the same time period. That is a renovation with new. We'll add a storm shelter and some new space in that building, and total renovation, make it a nice functional building that is modern and has the technology and everything that building needs. Field 4 Classroom Addition, we have completed that along with the Wilder 4 Classroom Addition. Both of those 4 classroom additions are being used. I was in field this morning, and it's exciting seeing the kids in the new space. So those buildings are complete, and they really turned out well. The safety and security piece, we're working on door sensors and access control cameras and roof sensors currently. We'll be bringing something to you before the board, or in the near future for the board to vote on safety and security. This map indicates the impact in the buildings that we're working on currently. If you look at number 12 and number 13, I've added in Bingham and Bissett. Exciting to see those two buildings come forward. As you recall, those was phase 3 buildings, but we have been able to move them up to phase 2, and excited to get those started and get kids into new buildings there. As far as our budget goes, Kara's team does a very good job helping us keep our bond funds in order, and currently we're very strong and doing well in the funding side of it. Field 4 Classroom Addition, I just wanted to share, that's exterior picture that was taken on Friday. Beautiful addition. It really ties into the existing building, and made a great space for us to move the children to. This is the interior picture of Field before we move furniture in for the first day of school. And then Wilder 4 Classroom Addition, we put that on the southwest corner of the building and tied it in, and it blends in very well with the existing building. This is one of the classrooms at Wilder. Reed Middle School. This is probably one of my favorite pictures of all. The way we've introduced the old building into the new building, and this work that you guys seen on our tour is just going to be a nice piece for that building in the future. As you recall, the interior of Reed as we toured, if you go there today, it's already looking a lot different than what it did when we toured that building. Just an interior picture of the auditorium. This is going to be a great space for the performing arts piece of that facility. Another exterior picture of Reed. And then Pipkin Middle School. This was taken a few days ago, and I'm sure if you go back to that same location, it's not gonna look anything like that. Inside Pipkin, they've poured, the majority of the concrete is poured, and I'm not sure when they're gonna schedule the next concrete pour, but it's moving forward very quickly. Exterior picture of Pipkin. And my favorite part is oversharing the video link that we have, so. Great music. So, as you can tell, a lot of work going on across the district. My team is working diligently to make sure that these projects are successful and moving forward and on time. So, kudos to the group and love seeing the progress. Is there any questions?
Board members?
Yes, we did that through safety and security. You're welcome. I'm sorry? Roof sensors. So it's an alarm system that we put on some of the roofs. So if somebody gets on the roof, it sounds off an alarms. It's tied to our security system. It'll call dispatch.
Is that a thing? Like if they get on the roofs to steal the copper out of the air conditioners? Is it what?
Yeah, we deal with a lot of.
Oh, God.
We deal with a lot of vandalism or theft or just. Yeah.
Okay. Didn't know that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Huh?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dilday. Woo, okay. Item 9.01, Superintendent's Update.
Yay, yay.
Dr. Lathan.
Thank you. Today was a great day as we welcomed our students back to school. I had the pleasure of touring a number of our schools along with Jessica Harmison Olson, who was chosen as superintendent for a day at Good Morning Springfield earlier this month. I want to thank everyone on Team SPS for all their hard work and dedication to make the first day special for students and staff. Today we welcomed 24,804 students. I believe it was a smooth opening to the beginning of the school year. This summer, our team was involved in professional development, including Learn, Lead, Succeed, new teacher induction, and Genesis Day for our transportation team. Also last week, board members, thank you for joining us for our all-staff kickoff. It was a great time, very competitive spirit, as you can see across this entire district as it relates to our schools. During the month of September, all schools will be holding SPS University open house events. Principals will share important updates with families specific to their school and about the district, including information about mental health supports and digital citizenship. Once again, I want to thank all members of Team SPS for a wonderful opening to the 25-26 school year. Board members, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Lathan. Other board member comments? Dr. Mahatmakani, can we count on you?
There's a couple of things I want to say. The first day of school is always very exciting. So I've had a lot of feedback, and I think it's just general human nature that people are it's easier for them to share negative feedback than it is positive, and that's just how we're constructed. But I've had a tremendous amount of positive feedback with the new teacher induction and a lot with the curriculum rollout. A tremendous amount of positive feedback on the benchmark literacy curriculum. So I'm super excited about Reveal and the new math curriculum. I just feel like all the pieces are finally falling into place. It's rare that somebody calls you to compliment. So that was new. It is very exciting, and it's also exciting because this is year 5. It's year 5 for me, it's year 5 for Dr. Lathan. And I always think about, when I first came on the board, I was told the average lifespan of a superintendent is 5 to 7 years. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like any CEO or anything, usually the first year you're learning, and then in the second year you decide what you want to change, but then you're learning how to make those changes because it doesn't happen overnight. And then the third year you've learned from the way that you did things, how you have to continue to modulate. So really, I feel like the show really begins in year 5. If I could, not that we're not always working, but like everything is sort of come together and all those pieces. And so that year 5 is like the crowning, the crowning jewel. So I'm super duper excited, especially since we had a little preview with a 2% increase in literacy, and that's not even year 5. We're just now beginning year 5. And so I am very excited, but I always remind myself, and I want to remind everyone, what an uphill battle we have been on and continue to be on. And I was kind of going through the numbers. I had to think back. So COVID came March of 2020. And we started, when Dr. Lathan started, year 21-22, in that academic year. So the students that were in kindergarten in March of 2020 are now going to be in 6th grade. That's what we're seeing. And then, so the first and second graders are going into 7th and 8th grade. So, to hear about this 2% increase, we have to remind ourselves who these kids are, and these kids are presumably grades 3 to 5. And we have to also remind ourselves that the kids that are going into 3rd grade, who were in 3rd grade last year, these are the kids that were 2 and just learning how to speak when COVID hit. And for so long, people were masked. And it's really difficult for children to pick up those language skills. So, so I'm really excited, but at the same time, I have to keep reminding myself that had that not happened, I could just, Steve McCoskey, bless his heart, he always talked about double-digit numbers, double-digit growth. And I feel like that would have been possible had we not had this massive hurdle. But things are falling into place, and I feel that someday after we're gone, the fruits of those labors will finally be realized. But we're at least beginning to see them, and this is probably the year that I've been most excited to start. So just already excited about what I'm going to find out next year, about this year.
Thank you. Other comments? Board Member Provance.
I'd like to visit about the Central High School. For all the parents, I understand how concerned. High school sports is a big deal. And for all the patrons from previous years, previous decades, the fact that you stand up for your high school, I appreciate that. We had a little bit of miscommunication. I'd like to apologize if, we didn't get out correct information, but I also want to let you know there was a reason. I got to visit with Dr. Josh Scott. He's an incredible head of athletics. He worked with those individual families, those 4 seniors. He made sure that he dealt with them so that they do have a future. I appreciate the ones that are going to stay with the school. Let's not call it JV football anymore. That's Central football. Might not be a Friday night light, but for the gentleman that said he wants to make sure that those seniors are recognized for their sacrifice, for their contribution, I totally agree. These two seniors that are working out at practice, they're building for the next generation. Coaches sometimes have one of two expressions. You're either, it's a year of rebuilding, or it's a year that you get to reload. I want to go all the way back in time. And there were sometimes 100 kids going out for football. I happened to be at Glendale before they opened up Kickapoo. We literally had 100 kids on the football field. There was also a rule, probably through the athletic director and not through the school board, but that rule was, don't care how talented that freshman football player was, there's no freshman football player playing. You're saying as a coach, this football player is very talented and I've got 99 players on the sideline. You took that player, you had him in the weight room, you gave him experience and opportunities to play, but you coached him. And then, because you were reloading, that guy comes out his junior and senior year, and let me tell you, no one wins that scholarship their freshman year, so we're not going there. He contributes his junior and senior year, and he earns a scholarship. In a year that you rebuild, and you have to start that freshman, what if that injury keeps him from that junior and senior year where he does star and he could get that scholarship? I have coached many sports. I've been blessed with that opportunity. I still remember the most grievous injury that one of my players absorbed. And I was so fortunate that she's the dental hygienist now where I go to the dentist. I went in there and I gave her a big hug and she goes, and you're right, she still has that scar all the way across her forehead. There's nothing more important than the safety of our players. Friday Night Live, love it under the lights. I love it. But not at the expense of an injury. We make decisions based on safety, and it hurts. But that's our first and foremost decision. I want those players, particularly those two seniors that are playing down, what are they contributing? Leadership. They're part of the rebuild. You've got all these freshmen and sophomores, and you're giving them the opportunity to play. We had 50 players last year. We have 25 this year. It's clearly a rebuild. But look what you've got. We're not collapsing the program. But in 1 to 2 years, those freshmen are now juniors, your sophomores are seniors, and you've got the body build for a safe football program. We made the best decision, couldn't please everyone, but we kept safety as the first factor. So I'm looking forward to it. I will be at a Central football game this year, and I want to see us support the cheerleaders, the dance, the band, the kilties, the fundraising, and keep the spirit alive at Central.
Thank you, Board Member Provance. Anyone else? Well, we had over 6,000 people attend the Back to School Bash. And what struck me that day, among other things, was that all of those people, some of them lining up at 6:30 a.m. in the heat, all the way down St. Louis Street. What I took from there that day was that those families really want their students to start with everything that they need, and they want their children to have a good education, and they have entrusted their children to us. And that, folks, is why I choose SPS. We're a good district, we're a great district, we are the district of choice. I wouldn't be anywhere else, nor would I want my family to be anywhere else. The public expects the very best from our teachers, from our bus drivers, from all of the educators out there, and I'm telling you, we're prepared to give them the very best. So again, I choose SPS. Any other comments? Well, then let's have a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? Dr. Thomas Tate? Let's vote. Let's just do it. I mean, I'm not going there again. Chair votes aye. 7-0. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there.
This was left at the podium, making sure everybody get their copy.
Okay. Will do. Whoa.